Oh dear Lord. Have I actually completed that impossibly difficult, long, laborious, and awful process of getting this fucking thing set up? Oh my god, so much work and steps to do. So many steps to do. Why are there so many steps to something like that? You gotta make a thing, you gotta do this thing, you gotta click that, you gotta click this. It's like, okay. You're asking me to do too many steps here. Clearly, you have unreasonable expectations for the amount of steps you can demand of somebody to pay attention to. There are too many steps here. I just want no steps, ideally. 0 steps. But I know there are ways that I could do it that require fewer steps. But my point is, I want my cake and eat it too. I want all the functionality of lots of steps without any of the steps. That's the key thing. Anyway, it was really hard to make this live stream start. But it was very important that I make it start because there's something critically important that I need to explain to everybody. If I don't explain this to everybody, they won't understand, okay? I was sitting on the toilet earlier with some of my best thoughts often occur. I was musing about the numbering system for the bathroom because, well, I had just finished having a really magical and spiritual moment. One of the most magical and spiritual moments I've ever had in my life, frankly. In which I was puking while I was saying hilarious, magical drug stuff. Oh, mushroom gods, thank you for making me puke. I understand that I'm only transubstantiating the ickiness of my former self into this foul putrescence that I have to exude from myself in sort of a ritual symbolic metaphor sacrifice to you, almighty mushroom gods. I'm saying this shit while I'm puking, but what really made me realize how magical it was when I realized because you're on so much Adderall, you're puking, ironically praying to the mushroom gods to make yourself laugh, and concurrently cleaning the toilet. Now that is a magical moment! That is a magical moment! Who can do that? Who can do those 3 things at the same time? Be actively throwing up, making post information age kind of laughing about how people used to think about drugs before they understood things properly. You know, kind of ironic. I understand things better than you kind of joke, but also hilarious because I do, you know, so it's like triple hilarious because it's just me there as an audience too, so it's like there's nobody to worry about the FE for, it's super fucking hilarious, you know? There's the point. Anyhow, all of this is just preface to the theme and the topic that I'm making here tonight on this live stream, which is pretty important that we get addressed, which is, do you know why joint number 3 is a joke instead of an actual number? These are important things to ask, of course, but also to answer. Sure, it's good that we're asking these questions, but it would be even better if we were answering them. You know, don't you hate when people say, it's good that we're asking these questions? Okay, well yeah, it's good that we're asking these questions, but you know what would be even better? Answering them! toy. You know, people say such hilarious shit all the time. It's so fucking hilarious. It's like I do that test with people psychology where you're like, Joe and Bob come to you, and Joe says, my friend Bob's got a huge problem here. His mouth's too full of guinea pigs. And nobody says, spit it out. Why not? Because they're locked in this frame of, well, we're doing this test about stuff that involves complications, you know? Which is understandable because I purposely put them in that frame. I'm the one who locked them there, so after all, it's not like it's entirely unpredictable outcome, but it's still hilarious. But anyway, I want to finish explaining the important question of why it is that going number 3 is just a joke and not actually a number. Because you might think, hey, why isn't that a real number? We've got number 1 for going pee. We got number 2 for going poo. We got number 0 I've afforded to puking. I think puking deserves number 0 because, well, it's like I was also, here's another important revelation I had. The reason the number 0 exists is that when you make lists of things, you want it to get to 5, right? Let's say you complete your list of 5 things. And then you realize you forgot the first thing. Well, that's why the number 0 exists. So you can go before 1, you know, without messing up the fact that you have 5 things somehow magically. 0 doesn't count. See? That's the important thing about 0. Anyway, that's a sidetrack. That's an ancillary sidetrack here. I will talk to you some more about these strange things that I'm eating here that taste like crap, I gotta tell you. I'm pretty sure that doesn't qualify as real food. Whatever it is I'm eating. Tastes kind of like I don't even know what it tastes like. It's just like like old yucky grass or something. It's awful tasting. Of course it grows in shit, so what do you expect? It grows in shit and makes you puke, what do you expect, right? It tastes delicious. Anyhow. The truth is, you don't even need to swallow the things. If you chew them up and let them sit in your mouth long enough, you'll get all the drugs out of it that way. When you swallow it, it's like whatever little bit of drugs left in there, your stomach acid will get most of that. Very little of the drugs get through your system that way anyway. So if you chew them up good, you get most of the drugs through your mouth. But anyway, regardless of that, I don't know how it is we keep getting so, well, one of the reasons why we keep getting so off topic around here is it's still too hot in here. Why would you not be the right temperature? And the reason is because it doesn't matter how low I turn down the heater, it doesn't make it colder in here, right? It just doesn't turn on the heater, right? And that's the problem. I keep turning down the heater expecting it to get colder in here, but that's not going to happen. What I should do, it's already a plan I've thought of several times, but I haven't actually followed through on yet, is open the door. Because the reason I haven't followed through on that plan is because then I have to deal with trouble coming inside. But you know what? I don't care if trouble comes inside, so I'm just going to open the door. I'm going to go for it. Call me reckless. Call me wild. I'm going to concretize my potentiality into actual action here and open that fucking door. I just did it. I just did it. Okay, I'm crazy like that. I didn't need to discuss it any further, but what we do need to discuss a lot further, is why going number 3 is just a joke and not an actual number. Because I spent a lot of time thinking about this while I was puking and cleaning the toilets. But here's what I've concluded. The reason it's a joke is because you go number 0, you actually need to be at the toilet when you're puking. If you're not at the toilet when you're puking, then that's a big problem. That's a problem. You better be outside then if you're not at the toilet. If you're somewhere inside but not at the toilet when you're puking, it's a big, big freaking problem. So number 0, that's really ground zero for your toilet. If you are puking inside and you don't have a toilet, then you got a real problem on your hands. But presumably, if you're puking inside, if you have enough of an inside to have an inside, you probably have some equivalent of a toilet in there. Probably. But maybe not necessarily. You could have, like, I guess, like, a bunch of stabby rocks. Where the toilet should be. Your bathroom. And where the toilet should be. It's just this beautiful amethyst crystal. And you're like, you don't notice it at first. You go sit down. Ow! What are these? And then the hostess when the party comes in and says, "Aren't they beautiful?" Anyhow, that's not the point. Another little bit of an ancillary sidetrack there. The point is, why going number 3 is just a joke and not an actual number. It's because basically the gist of it is, you don't need the toilet to go number 3. In fact, if you're going number 3 near the toilet, you're probably doing it wrong. You know, almost for sure. There's no reason to be that close to the toilet. In fact, probably, you could say, there's an inverse relationship between successfully going number 3 in a good, happy way and proximity to the toilet. No. Look, women don't count, okay? This is only reserved to things that men do, okay? Pee, poo, come from your penis, and puke. That's it. That's all there is. There's nothing else, okay? The other things are just unnecessary complications. You're not being NI enough, but you're complicating the truth with your wanting to include women as part of people. Okay? This is the problem here. We're not talking about women, but we're talking about people, okay? People in general. Not some special weird shit that happens with this little group of people over there or something. That's every person, you know? Like, what's the norm for everyone? Obviously, that's just you only pee, poo, puke, and come out your penis. And if there's something else, then you're not normal. I spend so much of my time explaining to people what normal is. And there's a good reason why I do. Because it's extremely important to adhere to those norms. Uphold them in all of your doings. No matter how unsubstantiated those norms may be. Your job is to uphold them. Is come out the penis number 3? Yes, coming out of the penis is number 3. Correct. But the reason it's a joke and not an actual number is because the numbers linked to the toilet, not the body part or the action, right? If the body part of the action doesn't occur at the toilet, then you wouldn't give it a toileting number. And that's why, but intuitively, you think, well, my penis does this yellow stuff come out of it, that's number one. Then this brown stuff come out my butt, that's number two. Then this white stuff come out my penis, that's number three. You might intuitively think that, but no! That's not supposed to occur at the same location. And that's why going number three is, in fact, not a real number, but just a joke. Now that I've gotten that off my chest, I'm not sure there's anything much else that really desperately needs to be explained, but I'm sure I'll find some other things to explain. But that desperately needed to be explained. I mean, you guys probably didn't realize it, but each of you were in a state of extreme epistemological angst because I hadn't explained that yet. Of course, you didn't know that's why you were in a state of epistemological angst, which means you probably didn't even know you were in a state of epistemological angst. But now I've explained it, and the impact of that explanation is hitting you, you're retroactively realizing, oh my God, the existential angst I must have been undergoing prior to this knowledge was oppressively killing me. And you would be right about that, for sure. Well, I mean, that's why the joke's enabled, Ruben. Because, yes, it's conceivable you could come into the toilet. But as I said previously, if you're doing that, you're definitely doing it wrong, okay? You're doing it wrong. I was having a discussion earlier with Rachel inside because we were having sexual intercourse and I came to some important realizations. Oh, sex is the time where I constantly lie to you. That's what this is. This is lying time. Because the things I say to her in sex are patently untrue. You know, it's not true, for example, that the largeness of her bosom prevents the blood from getting to her brain, and that's why she's so dumb. She's not dumb. She's got plenty of heart pumpage to get the blood up to her brain, regardless of her tits. And that's not how the circulatory system works. It's just a huge lie, I'm telling. And it's not something I even want to be true at all. Except during these weird, inexplicable things called sex. In which all of reality gets reversed. Isn't it weird? And then when you're done, you're like, or even before you're done, even while I'm doing it, I'm like, why am I doing this? This makes no sense, but I really want to put this in her mouth over and over again. Why do I do that? Why do I want this? And then why, as I'm doing it, do I want to tell her a bunch of lies? It makes no sense at all. It's the exact opposite of making sense. It is the dumbest thing in all of humanity. Sex is like, how did that even, like, who thought that stupid shit up? Okay, God, you know, right. If you're an omnipotent person, like, you think of all these different ways to make new people, you're going to come up with, you know, here's how you make new people. You fuck her face and tell her a bunch of lies. Who came up with that? That's a terrible way to make new people. That is a terrible way. And then, why is it that there's something that is for making new people, we do it almost never, almost 0% of the time, do we do it for making new people? Like, what the fuck is up with that? This whole thing is just fucking makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. But the beautiful thing about sex is that as Rachel and I are busily either lying to each other or being unable to lie because your mouth is too full. One of those two. It's, we're both fully aware that we're lying, and we're enjoying this process of lying to each other. But why would lying be enjoyable? It shouldn't be enjoyable. It should be shameful and bad. Lying is shameful and bad. Except during sex, for some reason, in which everything's opposite world. So, this is my formal scolding of sex. You be logical, damn it. You stop making me do things that don't make any sense. You stop making me like things that I don't understand why I like them. You stop it right now. I'm tired of your biology shit. I've got important things to think about. I don't want to spend all this time going like, oh my God, look at you. You're so fucking, because she really is just so, But the point is, that I got more important things to do. What am I doing running around in the bedroom with my penis? It's like, that is not an important thing to do. I had to, listen, my explanation of why going number 3 is a joke rather than an actual number was delayed by at least 30 minutes. Thanks to that nonsense that went on in there. Are you telling me that nonsense, like I was saying to Rachel inside, like where are we going with this? Is there a purpose to this? Is this story going somewhere? It's like, what in the world is this that we're doing? You know? I'll pretend like you're livestock, basically, and you pretend to like it or something, except neither of us is pretending, but we both are. It's like, what the fuck is this? When you have sex on mushrooms, it's just like, okay, this is so weird. Why am I doing this? What is this then? And yet, here I am, not just doing it, even while I'm questioning how I could possibly be, what this thing is. I'm not just doing it, I'm really into it. Like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? Who is this person? You know? That's not... Anyway, that's just sex stuff. It's stupid. Sex stuff is just stupid and confusing. Like, bye. The reason sex is great for me and Rachel is very simple. It's not. It's the same reason for both of us. It's not bad, so it's great and fantastic. We have so low expectations for it that finding somebody else who's willing to be stupid the same way is just like, oh my God, this isn't shameful and awful? This must be bad. This must be what sex is. This must be how other people are talking about when they're talking about sex. It's still too hot in here. I did open the door. It's supposed to solve the problem. What's it doing? Come on, door, do your part. Or outside air, come in here. Or something. Actually, I'm just going to have to turn on the air conditioner. Now you don't blame me. I gave you plenty of warnings, outside air. I gave you plenty of warnings. You knew if you didn't start coming in here soon and cooling me down, there was a chance I might just have to turn on the air conditioner. And you pushed it too far. And now that's exactly what I think I might have done. Except I can't see this thing, so I don't really know. That's why I need my glasses, so I can see things, because I'm old now, and I can't see things like I used to be able to see things. But that's fine, because seeing things is not very important. Seeing things is probably the least important thing of all of the things there are. Wait, which one's either? Oh my god. Making saying the stream was so hard. It's like, there's too many steps, man. There's too many steps. There's too much, like, yes, click yes. Yes, click confirm. Yes, no, click the other thing. I clicked the wrong thing. Make that go over there. No, not like that. Undo? No, redo? Wait, undo? No, redo? Wait. Oh, is that a skunk? It is. There's a skunk outside now. Great. That's what we need. A skunk. Look, it's a skunk. Oh, you can't see it. You can just see my kitchen. Well, anyway, there's a skunk eating the cat food outside now. So, whatever. He's not scared of me. The Skunky Brewster. He even has a name, at least, so. And the possums don't get named, because they're gross. Unlike skunks. Skunks are cute. And skunks aren't a problem, unless you bother them. Skunks are like Tiffany, okay? Skunks go through the world with this completely irrational sense of entitlement and certainty that is completely undeserved, right? So, I'm coming over here. I'm a skunk, so you guys better go out of the way. It's very much how skunks are. Which is why I like skunks. Skunks are funny. Unlike possums, which are gross. See Skunky Brewster out there? Look at what cute he is. Oh, well, you guys still can't see him, can you? Fuck, this is really not conveniently located for this purpose. Every time I try to show something, I have the same fucking problem. Every time I try to show something out the door. Which is, this is just not designed for that purpose. I didn't set it up like that. You know, I set it up for this purpose, and it doesn't work well when I try to repurpose it. You can barely see him there. You see Skunky Brewster? You see a little bit of him. But yeah, that was way too hard to show you the skunk, so. Okay, that's enough of that. It's like, that's too much ass. You get all that ass out of there. You guys better get your sensing out of here, because I don't like it at all. Your sensing's gotta go. I don't like doing things and figuring shit out. It's hard. You better believe it. Alright, now whoever asked me to show you the skunk, oh my god, you're my new worst enemy. Because that was way too hard. That was a lot of stuff I didn't enjoy. And remember, everyone's job in the world is to make sure that Eric's always enjoying himself. Always playing, always having fun. And making me show you the skunk was not fun. It was hard and involved sensing stuff that I don't like. I had to get up, I had to do things. It was a problem. And also it's like, it's fine if I just have to do something, right? Like open the doors. Okay, I get that. Open the door. But when you go to open the door, then you realize, oh, this isn't the kind of door that opens. Yeah, this kind of door that you gotta meow a little bit. It's like, no, get away. Be the kind of door that opens. Don't be the kind of door that doesn't open. Ew, I hate those kind of doors. Yeah, Skunky Brewster right there is. Here's our skunk. He's sort of like a pet, I guess. I don't know, I never pet him or anything, but he's not exactly wild either because he eats there's always regular cat food for him, you know. It's not like we really put it out there for him, but he knows it's there. He knows we're not going to get it. It's like he's not even scared at all because he's a skunk, because he's like Tiffany. You know, if Tiffany breaks into your house in the middle of the night, and you catch her stealing shit from your safe in the living room, you come in there, she'll be like, and you shine your light on her and be like, what are you doing? You know, get insured or call the police. You're about to call the police. You're bothering me in the middle of my shit. Yeah, it's just like, that's how skunks are. They don't care. They're just like, you're about to I'm not gonna walk right here. I'm a skunk. And normally they totally get away with it because it's like, no dog. If dog wants to go mess with them, no coyote, no whatever. It's like no matter how badass a predator you are, you don't want to mess with a skunk because their thing makes you stink for fucking ever. I mean, it's like for a week, 2 weeks, you cannot get that smell off of you. It's like, it's such a hilarious attack, dude. No, you can eat me. Go ahead. But I'm going to make you smell bad for weeks. And that works, you know? It's like, that's the ultimate defense mechanism. No, I'm not going to have any spines. I'm not going to have any shell. I'm not going to have any poison. I'm not going to have sharp claws or big talons or whatever. I'm Tiffany, okay? Yeah, your bottom line, man, you're going to stink. It's like, it's just so stupid it might work, you know? It does, and it's hilarious. Just so stupid it might work is a much better expression than just so crazy it might work, which is a common one. Crazy things don't work. Stupid things surprisingly work a lot of the time. Like a high percentage of the time, stupidity correlates with success. But craziness does not. Deviance from norms is not a good way to do it. It's just so crazy, it just might work. That makes no sense. Things that are deviating from norms don't work, is what my experience is. If it worked, if crazy worked, then clearly I would have a lot more than 7 people watching this insanity. You know? Because it may be crazy, okay? There's a lot of things you could say to negate this, what's happening right here. But there is no disputing that if you are looking for crazy of a sort of this variety at all, this is the absolute pinnacle of it, okay? So if it had any means at all of achieving success, there'd be a lot more than 7 people here. It's just so crazy it might work. That doesn't make any sense. It's just so stupid it might work. That makes a shocking amount of sense. And it's like, you know, the fucking, when I was in my car, and I went to go look at my phone for something, but it's still on camera like it is now, usually. It was like zoomed in on my pants. I just pushed, what are these things? Why, they're my pants. And put that up against thousands of views. And it's nothing, you know, it's so, just so stupid. It's so stupid it just might work. That makes lots of sense. It's easy to be stupid too. It's incredibly easy. It's like the easiest thing in the world. There's nothing easier I can think of than being incredibly stupid. And yet, it's one of the most powerful means that a person can use to be successful. It's like, how could something so easy link so powerfully to success? It makes no sense, right? It seems wrong, even though it's not a justice issue at all, right? But it seems like there's some sort of justice problem here. Like, it shouldn't be the case, from my perspective, that things that I work very hard on get exponentially fewer views than things I put zero effort into. But, it's stupid, so it just might work. If it were smart, there's very little chance of it ever working. But stupidity works remarkably well, shockingly well. If we're a smart person, it's like, that's one thing it's hard to remember. It's like, it's hard to believe just how stupid people are. I mean, it's really hard to believe just how incredibly stupid almost every single person on the planet is. It's hard to believe because it's so far away from my norms, right? Like, I'm me, so I just been whatever, going through my life doing whatever, but I'm also SI, so I'm just projecting that, and what me and my norms are the world. And then gradually, as you get older, you realize, oh, I guess those people said they didn't understand me. They weren't dissembling to try to trap me into rephrasing what I was saying so that they could use it against me better by pretending to not understand. They actually didn't understand what I was saying. And my assumption that they were just plain dumb to elicit me to state what I was stating differently so that they could then have some meat to grab onto in their counter argumentation was completely insane. Nobody's doing that. Nobody is doing that. Right? Except for me. I'm apparently the only person doing that. I assumed everybody was doing that all the time. But I come to learn, I guess I'm the only person who does that? Well, Jake does it. I can tell Jake does it too. ENTPs do it. We all do it. We're constantly thinking about every possible way that this thing could be used against us argumentationally, not in reality, right? So you could say, well, I'm gonna hurt you by cutting. I'm gonna use my power to do financial harm to you, and I'll go, oh, cool. That strengthens my moral high ground case. It's, Eric, that's not how the world's supposed to work. People don't care about that. You're the only person who cares about that shit, apparently. So, I don't know what you've been thinking going around imagining the whole rest of the world is like you, but you were totally wrong. Most people are incredibly stupid. Shockingly, mind-blowingly stupid. It helps me succeed when I misspell things. I shit you not. It helps when I misspell things. or use, like, kid, what I consider kid talk, like capital U instead of writing Y-O-U. When I do shit like that, it really helps. It clearly helps. But hold on, everybody. That's just making it dumber. Why is that good? I just put it there because I think I'm gradually dawning on me, oh, you guys like this shit that's dumb. It's not just you two don't make any sense. It's you people, you idiots, actually like the dumb shit more. Like, I've got this brilliant shit right here. It gets like 4 views. And I've got this just no effort, whatever dumbass shit that gets thousands of views. It's right next to it. It's like, it's so stark and hilarious. I'm in this club. You got like 3 views, 4 views, 5 views, 3,000 views, 2 views. It's ridiculous. It's hilarious. What do the shrooms look like? They look, feel, taste, and are like a rain after a very, very, very long drought. How long have I been saying? If you've been around the channel for a while, I've been saying, look, I'm tired of waiting for these mushrooms to fall in my lap. Okay? Yeah, sure, I know there are things I could do to get mushrooms, sure. But that requires a little bit too much sensing on my end. And I've already made it clear that I expect mushrooms to fall in my lap. And they haven't for literally years now. What's going on? I thought I was clear on this, that they're supposed to fall in my lap. Whether they want to or not, whether it's fair or not or makes any sense, it doesn't matter because I've said that and told my story. Well, so, yeah, Rachel and I, there's one particular guy who works at the whip store that we like a lot. That he's cool, you know, and we like to chat with him a bit. I'm almost for sure an ESFP. But, you know, that's the thing is, I like ESFPs, actually. I like them. Even though I think they're stupid, I like them. I don't dislike stupid in people, you know. I just dislike it in media sometimes. And only sometimes do I dislike it in media. I kind of like stupid, in fact. It's easy to understand. It's fun, and it doesn't give a fuck, you know. That's what I like about it. So, anyway, this guy's super cool, and we waited until he was on shift to make to have the guy help, because we knew if we wanted to make our Wendy Whippets video that had an intro thing at the Whippet store like we wanted to, that if we waited till he was on shift, that he wouldn't just be like, we wouldn't have to answer a bunch of questions. There wouldn't be any of the deliberative, knowing kind of meowery, right? It would just be straight on, oh, fuck yeah, let's do this. You know? Which is exactly what happened, and he was totally down to participate. And then the next time I went in there, he told us about how, oh, yeah, I haven't seen you around for a while. Where you been? I thought maybe you quit or something. He was like, no, you know, I help out with my DJ friend, and he was putting on these raves in California. So I was gone for like a week, and I got back to the car, and I was like, oh my god. I wonder if that guy can get me mushrooms. And so then, of course, nothing happens when I think it, ever. It's because the process from notion to decision to action is a very long and convoluted process that has many twists and turns and blind curves, and you can't really explain how that all happens. But at some point, days later, a notion has become a decision and eventually becomes an action. And so the next time we went to the Whippet store to get whippets, I remembered my plan to hit him up for mushrooms. And I was like, oh, you're working. Cool. Oh, that reminds me. I was something I wanted to ask you. I have been looking for mushrooms for a super long time. That's kind of a lie because I've been wanting mushrooms for a long time. I haven't really been looking for them. But in my mind, it's the same thing. But, because, the looking for part is so sensory, it doesn't really matter anyway. The point is, who wants to look for things? Nobody likes that. Who says, one of my favorite things to do is looking for things? Nobody says that. Nobody likes that. Why would you like looking for things? Because it implies immediately that what you want, you don't have, and you have to find it. That doesn't make any sense for anybody to like looking for things. But once again, I find myself on a side road here to my main point. Which is critically important as always. If you guys were to miss this upcoming main point, why, then what would be the point of being here at all? Like, this is the main point. Why would you just want some secondary points or supportive analysis or something when you could have the main point? Alright? There's no point. Now you have to stay until I tell you the main point, or else all the time you spent here so far has been in vain. It's been wasted. I've got you right where I want you now. You know that I've got you because you're going to commit a sunk cost fallacy. You're going to say to yourself, but gosh, I've already spent 46 minutes here waiting for the main point. I can't leave now. I surely must. I don't want to just have that whole 46 minutes be wasted. So I'm going to risk another 15 minutes of wasted time in hopes that he gets to the main point. And then I'll just always dangle the main point just out of reach. Sure. You continue to engage in the sunk cost fallacy. That's if hilarious YouTube streams were houses that need to be flipped. Which we're not. This is not really a house. This is not really a house in which you already invested a lot of money in. You're wondering if maybe you should invest more or just write this shit off as a loss. It's not actually that. And here's the reason why. Because at least presumably, although there's no guarantees, but at least presumably, there were occasional moments of the time you put in prior to this moment, which instead of just moments where you were waiting for me to get to the main point, there were instead moments where you weren't doing that. So that's what's wrong with this whole idea. But that's what makes it so hilarious. Oh my goodness. Is there really anything funnier than the world? No. Is there anything funnier than the funniest things? Definitionally, no. The funniest things, there's nothing funnier than them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be the funniest. That's why we have superlatives. That's why we have superlatives. So that we know that there's nothing more funny than that, whatever it is, if we declare the funniest, okay, that means no. There's no possibility of anything else being more funny than that. It's just forever, too. It lasts forever. This is funny. We started at the bottom. This is painfully unfunny. As I said to Rachel in the bathroom earlier, think about this. You want to really trip out on something. There's only one medium that doesn't share this quality. And every medium except this one medium, even if it's terrible, well, at least you can still laugh at it. That's not true for comedy, right? Comedy doesn't even have that as a backstop, right? If it's terrible, definitionally, you cannot laugh at it. That's the problem with it. That's what makes it terrible. So, it's what makes it impossible to make jokes about bad jokes. It's almost impossible, right? To make good jokes about bad jokes. Because in imitating the bad joke, you incur all the intuitive and feeling baggage that goes along with bad jokes, which is all horrible baggage. And that's why you can't make good jokes about bad jokes. Another explanation that everybody needed, they didn't know they needed, but now they do know they needed. A very important explanation. Is somebody keeping track of how many important explanations I'm giving out tonight? Because I'm not really keeping track, but I'd like to know later, like somebody to have been keeping track ideally, and tell me how many important explanations I provided. I like to have things quantified. You know what's hilarious? The ENFJ and the fucking... in the forest he's saying... You know, before I left, my wife said to me, "What would failure mean to you?" I was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. And then he said, it's like, wow. You know, I never thought to quantify something like that. You're not quantifying things, ENFJ. You're specifying things. But you're so SI-polar, you don't even know the difference between quantification and specificity. How hilarious is that? You're not quantifying things at all. When your wife says to you, what would failure mean to you personally? And you say, oh, I never thought of it like that. She is not helping you to quantify the matter. What? Where did you get that idea from? What quantities are being discussed? She's asking you to be specific about your particular experience. Oh my God. People's cognitive functions are funny. I mean, I've got just as hilarious deficits, but mine are less make funnable than people like me. You know, that's the only difference between me and that ENFJ guy. I can make fun of him way better than he can make fun of me. That's the only difference. Because I'm way better at the whole positioning, making fun of, blah, 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 all of that stuff than he'll ever be in a billion years, because he only has access to half of the playbook. He's like, he can be on offense, and he's great, fine, but he doesn't have the defensive half of the playbook, too. So it's like, you're never going to win. That's why I can't hear ENFJs, as they say in socionics. Like, you can't hear your beneficiary. It's because, to me, they're always wrong. I mean, it's that simple. I can hear them. It's just that what they're saying is always either. Well, it's never wrong, okay? It's not wrong. What they're saying is reductive and misleading ways, which is different. It's just different than wrong, okay? But I don't take it seriously because it's reductive and misleading ways, which is almost worse than wrong, really. You know, only two types, INTP and everyone else. Look, there's only 16 types, plus me, okay? There are 16 types. Every one of you is in one of those 16 types. Now, you can call me an INTP, but remember, I'm a little bit different. It's me, so I'm Eric, okay? I'm not really any type because I'm important and special, so types are for you guys. Remember that? It's like, that's basically what C.S. Joseph is saying, right? Look, I'm too important and special to be constrained by reality, so reality's for you little people. That's basically what he's saying, you know? He doesn't say it in those words, but that is what he is saying. That's what all anti-polar people are saying. Look, hey, listen to me. The truth is not relevant here. I'm spewing bullshit. Okay, so the truth needs to get out of my way because my selfish third slot NE is busy spewing bullshit. And so I've got no room for your truth around here. It keeps trying to tell me I should actually let one thing win rather than simply continually evaluate the respective merits of different things without committing to anything or acknowledging that one thing is actually superior to the other. ENTP equals narcissist. You know, I'm definitely a narcissist in the non-pathological sense. Like, I like to look at my own shit, you know? I like the smell of my own farts. I literally like to look at my poo. I think most people do, probably, after they poo. But, I need to see what it looked like. You know, like, well, that was a big poop. But I won't know for sure that it was until I look at it. Yes, indeed. It was a big poop. I've confirmed it with my eyes now. So yeah, I'm narcissistic in that sense. I do, like, you know, note, once again, here Eric is holding court, right? Taking advantage of this streaming thing that exists where he's the only one who gets to be on camera and talking, and everybody else who wants to communicate has to do so by a text. So in that sense, I'm definitely narcissistic. Like, I you know, it's all about Eric is definitely what a critique you can level at me, for sure. But in the pathological sense, there's nothing narcissistic about me at all. In fact, I am I am the exact opposite. And the other thing is, I have a weird instinct. I could tell in like 2 seconds of hearing Meghan Markle talk, this woman is evil. And I was absolutely sure of it, and I'm not normally like NI like that, right? Like I don't get consumed by what I know about things all of a sudden for no reason, you know? But I did about that. Same with that chick, Amber Heard. I saw like a couple seconds of her and Johnny Depp fighting, and I was just like, this chick is pure evil. And it's not just chicks, right? Those are the 2 examples I have happen to both be chicks. It's not like I'm some sort of like guy who expects women to be quiet and subservient, and I don't like the strong women. No, those are both fucking narcissists. They just happen to be women. And they're evil and they suck and fuck them. You know, I hope all bad things happen to them. I don't give a fuck for them at all, right? That's the thing. If you are a genuinely narcissist, I know you're a narcissist because I actually don't have any sympathy for you anymore. And I have sympathy for everybody, ultimately. I may not feel it right now, but I know, and it manages my, that's part of being so slow to SE, right? It's like, look, it's fine to talk about things as potentialities. Those are great. Potentialities aren't supposed to ever hurt anybody. And that's what gets me so mad, right? It's like, I'm talking about conditionalities and stuff, and word statuses, in which we ought to be dispassionate and understand that words mean things, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, of course, for people who aren't mapping types, they don't fundamentally understand the distinction between map and territory, and they don't play by those mapping kind of rules. And so, you know, it's like, it's because of that reality that I just articulated that the following insane thing can even occur in any universe, right? Which is, I make a type police video, and somebody else says in response to that type police video that I made, that Eric, made them take a week off of work. That's the kind of insanity that happens when you are the exact opposite of a mapping type. You're instead an executor. All you do is execute. You know, you're ISTJ, ESTJ. You may be interested in ideas. You know, you're ESP, ISP. Look, I love ESPs. ISPs are around the channel a lot. They're very intellectually interested in stuff because of their absolute values, etc., etc., etc. But when you're that type, no, you're not coming over here. If you want to go in the kitchen, fine, but you're not coming over here, and that's it. That cat, I'll tell you this, I'm fighting a losing battle. In this regard, an ENFJ will always win. And this cat is definitely an ENFJ. He'll just kill me with kindness and or claws, whatever's necessary. You know, and he's not going to stop because he finds it satisfying to do shit. It's like he's scoring on his scorecard when he successfully does shit. And I'm like, okay, but I'm trying to tell you to stop doing shit, though. Well, stop doing shit will always lose against doing shit, right? Doing shit will always defeat stop doing shit. Because stop doing stuff is just like, I'm saying, I'm not telling you, I'm not giving you any alternative or whatever, I'm just saying, no, you stop doing this, do something else. But that's not much will behind that, right? Whereas actually doing stuff is an application of will. So that's always going to win. I guess my general indication that he needs to stop doing stuff. And he's a cat, of course, too, so he doesn't really understand what I'm saying very well. I think he gets most of it, though. As long as I don't get too complicated. I don't believe him either when he says he doesn't understand me. I think he's probably just rope-a-doping. Prevaricating so that he can trap me into using different language to enable his turn blocks that he's got pre-prepared. I'm sure that's what's happening. It's not that he actually doesn't understand me. That's what's happening instead. Talking about anti-ignoring, right? Why don't you believe the person, Eric, when they tell you if they don't understand you? Maybe the explanation here is a little simpler than the way you come up with. Maybe the reason they say they don't understand you is because they don't understand you. That might be. I mean, it's possible. It seems crazy, but it's possible. I mean, what I'm saying is perfectly clear. So that's why I led me to conclude those things, right? What I was saying is not just clear enough, it's way more clear than what anybody else is saying. So how could you not understand me? I'm the only one being clear. So, it's understandable in that sense that a youthful character thing, they're lying. They do understand me, and they're trying to trap me by getting me to say things that aren't as true as what I'm saying, so that then they can turn those words against me to win this argument even though they shouldn't. That's what they're doing. It's reasonable for a young Eric to conclude that, given the fact that what is true now was still true then. It doesn't matter which group of people are around. If there was a lack of clarity, it wasn't coming from me. Okay? I was not the one being unclear. I was more clear than everybody else. So if clarity was the issue, at the very least, if you were going to judge, if you're going to say, okay, I don't understand you, I would understand you saying that to everybody else before me. And then maybe even me too, because I'm not perfectly clear all the time, right? But instead it seems to be the opposite. You don't tell the unclear people, whom nobody should understand, that you don't understand them. So, I mean, what's going on here, right? The people who aren't clear and aren't actually saying things that are understandable, you're understanding fine. But you don't understand what I'm saying, even though I'm the only one saying things that actually mean things. How can you... Do you know what the word... This brings us... Oh my God. Finally I realize what the issue is. Again, I come back to this central thesis. I forget it. This is part of my anti-polar, or anti-ignoring as well. It all comes down to the preposition that you have before the word stand. And it's the central rule, or I guess physics law of the universe, is all physics and reality is predicated on which preposition you have before the word stand. So the problem with these people who were talking about understanding is they weren't actually talking about understanding. They were talking about understanding, but they weren't talking about understanding. They were saying understanding, but what they meant was below standing, or, I guess shitty's not really a preposition, but let's pretend it was. They're not talking about understanding. They were using that word, but what they really meant was shitty standing. Shitty standing is not the same thing as understanding, and people shouldn't think that they're synonyms. Anybody can shitty stand anything, because it doesn't have to mean anything for you to shitty stand it, right? Oh, I totally shitty stand you. Tiffany could say to me, I go, oh my God, Tiffany, I totally shitty stand you. And we'd both be telling the truth. And it wouldn't mean a goddamn thing. That's the point. You be honest. Don't say you don't understand me. Say you don't shitty stand me. And I'll point out, well, you're never going to shitty stand me because I'm not shitty standable. You have to understand me. And the problem is you're using the wrong preposition. And the other problem is you apparently think shitty is a preposition. And I gotta tell you, it's definitely an adjective. It's not a preposition. I'm sorry, it just isn't. So stop trying to make it one, shitty standers, okay? Stop trying to make shitty into a preposition. That's my That's my number one. Jordan Peterson's Eric's Rules for 12 Lives. That's what I'm saying in my book. Jordan Peterson's Eric's Rules for 12 Lives. It's a great title for a book. Number one rule. Shitty's not a preposition to put in front of stand, motherfuckers. Number one. Just stop at the list, okay? Stop shitty standing but can only be understood. And, subpoint A. Shitty's not a preposition, you idiots. Somebody might well say, nobody but you, Eric, is claiming that shitty is a preposition. You're the origin of this very notion, in fact. So why are you telling other people that they need to stop thinking shitty is a preposition? There's no such people exist except you. You might well say that, but I'd say, oh, you're overthinking this. You're overthinking this. That's what happens when I'm wrong. See, when I'm wrong, you're overthinking this. When I'm right, you're shitty standing it. Okay, but when I'm right and you disagree, you're shitty standing. When I'm wrong and you point that out, well, it's just one of those things that we just put behind us real quick and just ignore, you know? Oh, that happened, I guess, but that's just anomalous data noise. We don't need to draw any conclusions from that. Because, I mean, I can't be perfect, I'm going to be wrong sometimes. But Eric, you're always saying how you're the most right person in the world. And now you're telling us, yeah, but you get to be wrong too. Well, yeah, I am telling you that. Because I'm so right, that's the most correct description of the thing. And so that's what I'm telling you. And it's unavoidable. I'm trapped by my rightness. Nothing I can do about it. I can't be unright. I can't be less right about things, I can't make myself not understand what's correct. I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to begin to do any of that. How would I make myself... That's an interesting question, though. If I were to try to do this, how would I go about making myself not understand what's correct? Because that would solve a lot of my problems, really. If I didn't understand what was correct, life would be so much easier. It would be astonishingly easier. Shockingly so. So maybe that's the problem I need to work on. If I'm so smart, maybe I need to figure out a way to make myself less smart, right? Because that's the source of my problems. And if I can't figure that out, then I'm probably not that smart to begin with, so why am I calling myself smart? You're just really saying, Eric, you're unpopular, but you want a better adjective for it. Well, that's true, but also, it's also true what I'm saying. So yes, it's you could position it like that I'm just unpopular, and I want a better adjective, which is sort of true, but... it's also true that I'm unpopular for a reason that's not just that I suck ass, okay? There is some sucking ass that gets done by me, for sure, okay, but that is not the number one reason why I'm unpopular. The number one reason why I'm unpopular should be that I suck ass, but it's not, okay? So... there's some other reason why I'm unpopular besides just that I suck ass, okay? And that other thing is, I think I'm not stupid enough. I'm pretty sure that's the problem. I need to be stupider. And if I'm really actually smart, I should be able to figure out how to do that, so... I must not be smart, therefore I'm already stupid enough, and... hey, I just solved my problem. I am stupid. after all. And there is no problem. I was worried over nothing. Whew. I was worried because I thought I was smart for a second. But now I realize I'm actually stupid, so I don't even have a problem. That's much better. That's way better. That's much better. Okay, that resolves this issue, no problem. And I proved it because if I were smart, I'd be able to figure out a way to make myself stupid, and I can't, so I must be stupid. So I don't need to figure out a way to make myself that way. And there's no way out of that. Okay, just don't even attempt to even go near that argumentation block. Just consider that argumentation block have big radioactive poison symbols all around it. Just stay far away from it. Okay, it's locked down. There's no changing those realities. Am I going to read the audio version yourself? I don't think you can read an audio version yourself. You just can listen to it. I'm pretty sure that's implicit in what you're saying there. This is the sort of thing that happens to me all the time. It happens to me all the time. Like, constantly, right? Like, wait a second. How can it be 12 Final Fantasies? Do they keep getting it wrong? No. But this time, seriously, this really is a Final Fantasy. If so, shouldn't they go back and rename the previous ones? Like, you know, brainstorming of a fantasy, incubation period of fantasy, one of myriad different fantasies, an example of various sets of fantasies, various incarnations of fantasies, until you get to the last one. Then call it Final Fantasy. Because that would actually be the Final Fantasy, right? This sort of thing happens to me all the time. Somebody says to me, so do you plan to read the... What did they say? It's so strange. It's a shockingly strange question. Like, what does that mean? Are you going to read the thing yourself? What? Are you going to read the audio book yourself or something? It doesn't make any sense at all. I don't even know what you're asking. It's just whatever it is. I don't even know what that means. Oh, am I going to do... Oh, right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Am I going to do an author's read of it? Okay, now that makes perfectly good sense. Yes, I will. For sure. I will do an author's read of now I get it, because you're saying to me specifically, am I going to be the one reading the book that you're listening to, or is it going to be somebody else reading it? I totally get that question. That makes perfectly good sense. I was misinterpreting it. This is one of those instances we were talking about before, where I was wrong, and let's just pretend that didn't happen. Okay? We've discussed this before. You should have the protocol down by now. Okay? Sometimes Eric is wrong. Rarely. Very, very rarely. But sometimes it happens. And we're all signed on, committed, full blast, in agreement that we're going to just pretend that didn't happen. And that's fine. And that's what you're committed to. So just deal with that. Okay. Now that we've gotten that straightened out, now we've addressed that issue, let me answer your question. Will I be reading it? Yes, of course I will. With all of my vigor and enthusiasm. Because I will have hypothetically been the person who presumably wrote this hypothetical book that is being hypothetically read. And I can't think of a better person to read it than myself, frankly. Well, I mean, maybe like, I guess if I had my pick of people to read it, or myself, I'm gonna go with the guy who does the Allstate commercials. That reliable sounding black guy. I think he's going to do a better job of it than I would. I feel like I'm in good hands if he was reading it. I just would. I feel like I'm in good, safe hands. This low-pitched voice that's suggestive of a conservative Negro concern for me is really selling the idea to me. It's like, hey, you know what? Maybe this guy is right. Because the person who's reading it makes me feel very safe. See, this is why stupid is just so stupid. It's so stupid it just might work. Makes sense, but it's so crazy it just might work. It doesn't make any sense. Because stupid shit works all the time. Even though it doesn't make any sense. And that's the irony. That stupid works, makes sense, is triple ironic because stupidity by definition doesn't make sense. So how could the whole thing make sense? Well, it could still, because you don't need to have that particular irrational number, so to speak, resolved into something. It's just filling a role mechanically in the equation. So you can still come to the right conclusion at the end, even about whether the whole thing makes sense, even though one of the components within the equation is defined as nonsense making. It's still fine. The point is, you can't critique my logic here based on the fact that stupidity inherently doesn't make sense, because that doesn't mean larger arguments about stupidity necessarily don't have to make sense. Obviously. So don't even go there, okay? Just don't even try that, you. I know you were thinking of it. I know that's what you were thinking. You were thinking, here's what I'm going to say to Eric. I'm going to say, hey, listen, you. You're not taking into consideration this thing, Mr. Eric. And I'm saying, no. I took it into consideration in advance and spiked it out so that you don't even get to say that. Because I already said no. Isn't it hilarious how my form of stupid works? I've got a great form of stupid. It's the best form of stupid because, as I've indicated before, I prove beyond any shadow of a doubt, such that nobody can ever revisit the arguments even, or come within 1,000 miles of them, that I am definitely stupid. I can repeat the arguments for you, but you can't approach them, okay? You can't respond to them. I'll repeat the arguments, but you're not allowed to have an opinion about them. They're those kind of arguments. Anyway, the argument is this, basically, that I think that the problem is the problem. I think I'm unpopular because I'm smart. But probably I'm just unpopular and don't like that adjective. That's part of the argument. But the other thing is, most importantly, that if I really were smart and I really did know, which I do, that stupid is more of a good way to be successful, then I'd figure out a way to make myself stupid. Since I can't figure out a way to make myself stupid, I must already be stupid. And therefore I don't have a problem to begin with. Now, these are the arguments you can hear, but not think about. Okay? So, these are for hearing purposes only. You are only a spectator to these arguments, You may not comment upon them or negate them or respond to them at all. Because there might, in theory, I'm not saying there isn't this big thing, but let's say hypothetically, a man were to present some arguments and there were some holes in some of those arguments there that somebody might hypothetically be able to critique. Well, these aren't those kind of arguments because you're not allowed to look at them enough. You're not allowed to get close enough to see. Okay? Basically, even if I'm telling you all the arguments, you're not allowed to think about them. So, just you have no opinion about them is the point. Okay? You just accept it as factually true, like gravity. You don't need to give a good reason for believing in gravity. You just believe in it. Same thing with what I'm saying here. Okay? So, just think of it as the gravity of you. From now on, that's your gravity. Whatever it was I was just talking about, I forgot already. Whatever it was, it's so central to your life that it's your gravity. Okay? I'm not sure what it was, but it's that. That, I'm sure, is how important it is. Well, I don't know what is that. I don't know why I have it. I don't know where it came from. Well, I know it's super important. All I know for sure is that it's super important. That's like the quintessential. That is stupidity 101, right? I don't know what this thing is. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's here. But I know it's super important. It's like, how can you know how important something is unless you know something about it? You can't know whether it's important or not until after you know the answer to those first things. That's why it's so stupid to say something's important without knowing those first things. That's why. Well, see, that's not really very meaningful in our understanding of stupidity because obviously you can be incredibly stupid and not do any of those things because I've already proven I'm incredibly stupid and I don't do any of those things, so who knows? It just throw away everything I'm saying is completely useless, basically. Because holistic truths assume everything and there is no black. There is no white. Okay? I finally see, thanks to my mystical drug experience, that everything is one. I don't though, is the thing. I never see that. I never experienced that. It doesn't matter how hard I'm on drugs. You can give me all the drugs in the world. I would never see things like that. Even when I was puking and cleaning the toilet, at the same time as I was thanking the magical mushroom gods for transubstantiating my ickiness into actual puke that I had to puke out, while I was puking and saying these prayers and stuff and cleaning the toilet. The important takeaway is I was still joking. I was never serious about them being mushroom gods, transubstantiating whatever. I was just making fun of that shit. And it doesn't matter how hard I'm tripping. I'm still going to do the same thing. I'm always going to just make fun of that shit. And some people in the world seem to think that unless I've transcended making fun of that shit, I'm not actually tripping hard on drugs. Isn't that crazy? It's like, no, dude, you're just tripping wrong, motherfucker. I'm not tripping hard. You're tripping wrong. I mean, it sounds strange, but basically, yeah, you're tripping wrong. That's not what drugs are for. You're trying to learn things from drugs. That's like, hey, listen. This is really important. We need to be serious for a while and focus on logical, dispassionate things. So let's go have sex. I mean, no, that's not what you just said at all. That's the exact opposite of it. You know. Can I see rainbows or shrooms? Yeah, I don't really care about the visual stuff. That's a sensory thing. Yeah, sure, there's visuals, but they're irrelevant. You know, it's like that's not the point of drugs. The point of mushrooms is that they help you to understand how stupid everybody is and how hilarious it is. That's the point of mushrooms, okay? It happens every time I take them. I have the same realization that yes, what keeps kind of bothering you under the surface as you're trying to ignore it is in fact true. Everybody's a fucking moron. And that's totally fine. You know, you are too, and you still like them a lot. You just don't like it when they're saying stupid things. You don't care if people are stupid at all. You just don't want them to say stupid things to you. That's all. And it's not that complicated, Eric. You just need to remember that. Yes, it's frustrating. Everybody's stupid. And you're not. But shit happens, you know? It's like, those are the cards you got dealt. And you're stupid in lots of ways too. And anyways, you don't actually care about whether people are stupid or not. You only care about what they say. So, what are you worrying about? See, mushrooms, like, clarify things a lot. It's like, the funny thing is, the one drug that deserves to be treated as though it has teaching capacity, or you can learn something or it actually changes you, is mushrooms. But despite the fact that that is so, I'm still my personality type, which means I will never end up framing it that way, right? I will always frame it as something I'm doing for fun, and that if you're making holistic truths out of it, you're doing it wrong. I will always frame it like that, because it's just my personality type, you know? There's no way for me to avoid it. Even if it's untrue. Like, you know, I acknowledge, and that's the other thing is, it's not like I'm going to deny something. It's observationally so. Yes, it is the case that you learn things from mushrooms and they improve your life and make you realize you're worried about nothing or whatever. You've got all this dread for no reason. But, yeah, that's true, but from my perspective, that's not the point of things. That's not the point of it, though, right? That may happen. It's like, yes, it's true when you go to the store and you get out of your car and stuff, you get a little bit tan. But that's not why you go to the store. Okay? You don't go to the store to get tan. You go to the store to get some food or whatever. So, the thing is, I don't remember where I was going with this, but the point is, whatever I was saying is incredibly true and incredibly important, or actually wrong, and it's important that we pretend that didn't happen, or not very important and right, or unimportant and wrong, one of those things. So everything I say is one of those things, whether you like it or not. Okay? I don't care if you like it. Just get out of here if you don't like it. Okay? Oh, my house now. This is the beautiful thing about stupid, right? It just declares things. It's wonderful. I don't know, Club Inch P. I'm not Winston's mom's mom. Obviously, why would I know where she is? Why are you suddenly concerned about her? It's not like you have any actual genuine concern for people. If somebody around here were actually suffering, you'd take pleasure in that fact because you'd think, here's a way I can provoke That's what makes you a bad person. And that's what makes me not a bad person. So, there you have it. It's like you are really up against it today, mister, because I'm on mushrooms and there's no hiding real truths when you're on mushrooms at all. I'm not aggro at all, dude. I'm doing nothing but laughing for the last hour and a half. And I am still wonderfully delighted to see you here. Because I love the opportunity to explain things. and, you know, if nothing else, to me, just from my own personal perspective, you represent somebody who desperately needs to have things explained to him. Okay, so I'm delighted by your arrival because, oh cool, here's someone who definitely needs a bunch of explanations to learn things from, and I'm here doing my normal thing, explaining things, so great. If you consider, if I came across aggro, you mistook my delighted enthusiasm for aggression. I don't mean to be aggressive at all. I'm delighted that you're here to learn. Because I'm definitely going to explain to you what's wrong with you. And I can't help it. It's like, right now I'm on mushrooms, so what's wrong with you is very clear to me, and I'm going to tell you. Do you want to stick around for that or not? It doesn't matter to me. I don't give a fuck. I'm barely reading this thing. Like I give a fuck. Seriously. Like, one thing that mushrooms teaches you, if nothing else, that it teaches you is that you're caring about things in general that you shouldn't care about, right? That if you're going around life carrying some sort of dread or sense of anxiety or frustration because everybody's stupid and you're smart, or whatever your reasoning is for, whatever your justification for your frustration is, might be different than mine. It doesn't matter. They're all equally subjective justifications, right? For emotions. So, the point is, regardless of any of that shit, what mushroom teaches you is, oh, a lot of these things, what you realize when you're on it is, oh, I see what's been going on. I've been treating those stupid things like they were important, and they're totally not important. And that's the only thing that you learn from mushrooms, really. So it's like, what's important here? I mean, how do I put this in a way that's it's not just an attack, that actually tries to inform me of something? You don't know what matters. And you don't know that you don't know what matters. And that's the problem. And it's very different than not knowing what you want, which is my problem, right? So I don't know what I want. And I can't stick to one thing. Because I don't know what I want. You ask me what I'm going to do later? I have no fucking idea, because I don't know what I want to do. You ask me what I want? I have no idea. Right? But the difference is not in significance. It's equally significant that I don't know what I want, as it is that you don't know what matters. They're the same thing, except different things, but I mean in terms of scope, in terms of significance, they're equally bad problems. There's nothing better about my problem than yours. But your problem doesn't play well publicly. And your problem keeps causing you problems in a way that my problem doesn't cause me problems. Because you're trying to operate in a system where what matters is kind of a salient point here. More than what you want, right? Like, So I don't know what I want, but I do know what matters. So I don't really care what happens, but I will tell you what's correct. It's the same thing. Like somebody wants to argue with me about abortion or something. I don't care whether abortion is legal or not legal or whatever. I know what the correct position is. I can tell you what it is, but I don't care. Why would I? I don't know what I prefer to have. It's not relevant to me. It's like, yes, it's true that the correct arguments are abortion is a rights violation of the unborn child there's no logical reason why we shouldn't afford them legitimacy in an individual that generalizes out. It doesn't produce intuitively offensive results. So that's just how it is, right? But I don't actually care. I mean, so it's like, you want to make abortion legal? You want to make abortion illegal? I don't give a fuck. Just don't justify it wrong. Whatever you do, explain why you did it correctly. That's all. I don't care what you do. Like you keep thinking that I care what happens. This is what I mean by not getting what matters, right? What happens doesn't matter. And that's where you keep like going like, what's going on here? I'm doing stuff's happening. I'm still confused because the stuff you're doing doesn't matter. You're just wasting energy. That's why. You think that doing stuff inherently matters. But it doesn't. Just like the fact that I do stuff doesn't inherently mean I know what I want to do. I mean, I definitely knew earlier that I wanted to take these mushrooms that I just got. I was excited to take them. I was surprised at how incredibly easy it was to get them if I just asked somebody instead of like do nothing and hope they land in my lap. I've been doing it for years now. Complained about not... Basically, my strategy to get mushrooms for like 2 years plus now has been to complain about not having mushrooms on live streams. That's been the entire amount of effort I put into getting them. It's just complaining about not having them. Obviously, that's not a good way to get things. You should probably ask somebody if they can help you get them. Would be a better way to get things than complain about not having them. But, it takes me a long time to get there to the action part of things. So eventually, I did say, oh, hey, this is as close to falling in my lap as it's going to get. This guy just told me a story about why he was gone that makes it very obvious to me that he must have access to psychedelic drugs. And we're cool and everything. This is as close to actually falling in your lap as it's gonna get, Eric. You also happen to have $100 bill in your wallet right now. And it's like, while we close at 9, so and he's like calling the guy as I'm standing there, checking to make sure he got it, and that he'll be able to get here by me time. And I should drive back to the store at 9 o'clock. And he's like, oh, we better do this in my house, And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, I'll go to your house. It's fine. He was like, super nice. Like, if that's not cool, then I can do blah, blah, blah. Like, why are you trying to... I'm the one who's supposed to be going like, whatever you want, because you're the one who's getting the drugs. And that makes you the most important. See, that's what matters, right? It's like... It didn't really... I knew what I wanted in that instance. That was kind of nice, but I sort of knew what I wanted. I had to remember what I wanted. Like, oh, wait. Remember, Eric, you've been waiting for mushrooms for a long ass time? And just sort of hoping they fall into your lap? I think this might be falling into your lap. This qualifies as that, maybe. And I'm assuming my wants haven't changed. I know I've established that I do want mushrooms at some point in the past. And I haven't revisited that question, so I'm assuming my answer to it still applies, that I do still want them. So yes. Oh, and look, this is all perfect. Okay, great. I'll just get these mushrooms right now. And not only did I get them, they come in a bag. Like, I mean, where's my folded over sandwich bag? There's no way I can tell how much mushrooms this is. This is not in the proper container. I don't know how much mushrooms to eat unless it comes in a sandwich bag that's not a Ziploc bag, but the regular kind that then is rolled. That's how you're supposed to get mushrooms, okay? What is this? This is not how you get mushrooms. This bag, this is like, what is some company made this or something? What the hell? What kind of drug dealer is this? It gives you a sealed bag of product. This is not drug deals. This is not how drug deals are supposed to be done, okay? No. This is not nearly shady enough. This needs to be done in the back alley. I need a lack of actual scales so that nobody really knows how much weight you get. You just gotta eyeball it. And that doesn't look like an eighth to me. That's how drug deals are supposed to be. All this accuracy in bags and stuff is like, no. That's just confusing me. Now I don't know how many mushrooms I've eaten because it came in the wrong kind of bag. And you guys need to stop putting it in the wrong bag and go back to regular rolled sandwich bags. I know your bag is more colorful and stuff. If you were looking for visual appeal, there's no doubt that this bag has more visual appeal than a regular sandwich bag, but that doesn't change the fact that I prefer a regular sandwich bag, so that's how things should be. Because that's how I want them to be. And therefore that's how they should be. See how much better being stupid is than being smart? Oh wait, you are still here. I stopped explaining to you, but the point is, the message from here is, you're actually lucky. It's way better being stupid than smart. And if you are actually secretly smart or something, oh my god, you are the stupidest smart person I've ever met, because what the fuck are you doing? You have no idea what you're doing. What's your end game here? You don't have an end game. You don't have a strategy. You don't know what matters, right? You just know what you want. Well, in this forum, my deficit, not knowing what I want, is never going to lose to your deficit, not knowing what matters. Obviously, this is a public forum. You have no chance. It's like, until you get the frame right, until you understand correctly, until you got the right preposition before stand. Because right now, you're shitty standing, and that's a double problem. Because first of all, it's the wrong preposition before stand. And second of all, shitty is an adjective, not a preposition. So you should not treat it as one. So if ENTP, Club ENTP, the first step to solving your stupidity problem is to stop shitty standing. The second step is to stop mistaking shitty for a preposition. It's an adjective, okay? Once you've gotten past those, then we can begin discussing some of the other things to fix you. But I don't really care, so fix yourself. Ideally quietly away from me, please, or loudly away from me. But if you have to do it around me, fine. But, I'm not going to help much, obviously. It's like, look, dude, you've got a whole mess of fucking problems to deal with here, narratively, right? That I don't even want to begin to even try to untangle, because you've tangled yourself up into an unsolvable conundrum of butt fuckery here. You've got no moral high ground to stand on, and you never will again. You've lost all your credibility, and you'll never regain it. You can't accuse me of being paranoid because you're the one who's claiming to be multiple fake people. And you don't know what to do with it now. There was never any plan here, right? Like, now what, right? Now that the argumentational realities of your map-free decision-making are hitting you, what are you going to do about it? There's nothing to do because you never knew what mattered in the first place. And that's why you shouldn't have taken action. Because it's fine to take action when you don't know what you want, as long as you know what matters. But it's not fine to take action when you don't know what matters, as long as you know what you want. Because what you want is not determinate in whether your action is going to be impactful if your forum is universal, community, or public, right? So, it's a clusterfuck. Even thinking about it makes me just go like, oh my god. Like, if I were your lawyer, how would I get you out of this? It's like, there's no way. You're fucked. Sorry. Get a different lawyer. I'm not taking this case. You fucked yourself beyond. You're like Taylor, right? When Taylor first got arrested for drugs in Kansas, I put myself to it, and I got him the argument to make that would have successfully gotten him freed, blah, 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 everything. It was the perfect legal silver bullet. It was undeniable by any person because it double bound the judge in a perfect way. I mean, it was absolutely fucking jurisprudence genius, okay? But before he could execute it, he got busted again for meth. Destroying my whole ability to use anything, right? You can't, if you want to have any kind of access to argumentational dominance, you can't keep doing shit. You gotta let it okay, yes, you fucked up, but just stop fucking up for a while and I'll get you out of it. But you can't stop fucking up. So, now I'm useless. You have to let reality stay still so that I can argue you out of it. But if you won't let it stay still, then I can't. I don't want anything to do with this case. I don't want to be your lawyer because you're not letting arguments do what they're supposed to do because you keep changing reality in stupid ways that harm your argumentational case, as though the arguments don't actually matter, even though they're the only things that do. Because ultimately, wow, I don't know what I want. You have a much bigger problem on YouTube. You don't know what matters. So, that's just how it is. I mean, if it weren't like that, I'd be at your channel instead of you being here at my live stream trying to provoke me into paying attention to you over and over again, despite continual failure to garner any interest from me beyond responding to you when you're here watching my media all the time, as you always are, even though I've never watched yours at all because I think it's terrible. So, I mean, at some point, the anti-truth here has got to hit you in the face, right? Like, okay, I'm over here paying this much attention to Eric. He's paying no attention to me because he's busy. He's actually doing things that matter, and he knows what matters. So he's obviously not paying attention to me because I don't matter at all. At some point, that's going to interfere with your ability to posture. It's got to eventually, right? At some point, the reality that this posturing you're attempting isn't working, and no matter how many defensive mechanisms you put up, like, no, I'm not going to show how many subs I have. No, I'm not going to show this. I'm going to keep everything private, because I'm really super FI. No matter how many fucking defensive mechanisms you take on that, you're never going to successfully accomplish what you're accomplishing because you've got the whole thing wrong, right? It's like, the reason I'm successful in your eyes is not anything that you can either imitate or get on board or whatever. The reason I'm successful in your eyes, not in my own, okay? I don't necessarily view myself as successful. I have no idea why why some random dude makes such a big deal out of me when there's lots of big people around. It's like if you knew what mattered and you were actually a meta actor or whatever you call it. If you knew what mattered and you were actually that, you wouldn't be doing it at me. You'd be doing it at somebody much bigger than me and much easier to get. Right? So you got a serious problem here, don't you? You don't know what matters, but you keep doing things. And it's very obvious you don't know what matters because you keep painting yourself into ridiculously bad rhetorical places that even I can't get you out of. And I'm the best in the world at getting people out of shit like that. You have bumblefucked yourself into such a narrative mess that even I can't get you out of it. If I wanted to, which I definitely don't, but I couldn't if I wanted to. That's how badly you bumblefucked this whole thing. There's no way out. You've lost all your credibility, all the things I've already said, right? The approach you took, because you acted on your feelings instead of actually knowing what matters, you've made it impossible for me to save you. Argumentationally. It's just, you're a lost god. That one nothing to do with your case, you know? It's not like this is the thing. When you're somebody like me, I don't necessarily, I'm good-willed. I don't want you to suffer, whoever you are. And I'm also inherently anti-authority. Like, I would definitely be a defense attorney. I would never be a prosecutor, right? But all that notwithstanding, it's like, that doesn't change the reality that there are some people I won't defend because I can't, basically, because they fucked it up too badly. And that doesn't change the reality that there are some people who probably don't deserve to be defended. You know, even though they might have the right to a vigorous advocate just as much as anybody else does, especially on legal matters. It doesn't necessarily mean they deserve to. That they deserve that. They have the right to it, but that, you know, deserving is a more questionable, is a more mushy thing, right? Like you don't deserve any goodwill from me, but because I'm a good person, I don't have any ill will towards you, and I'm not unwilling to provide goodwill towards you, but you don't do anything to seek it, really. In fact, you do everything. Because you're unwilling to approach this from a supplicant angle, in other words, you're unwilling to, you insist that we are equals in all things first and foremost. But the problem with that is it's not going to work here because we aren't at all. And even though we both agree with the same egalitarian norms, that just because I'm way better at you, way better than you at everything, doesn't mean I'm special and get special privileges or something. We both agree with that. But the problem is, I just can't play along with your lie, right? You want to act as though we're equals, but you're dumb and don't understand things, or even worse, evil, secretly smart, do understand things, and are purposefully causing harm and suffering for the sake of doing so. This is what I mean by bumblefucking yourself, right? No matter what angle you take, you're fucked because of how you thought, because you were acting with your feelings rather than. You should have consulted me before attacking me, and I could teach you how to attack me properly, and then you would have been much more successful, and that would have actually happened. Okay? So if you had approached me and said, Eric, I want to attack you as best I can. Can you teach me to do that? Your attack on me would have been 1,000,000,000 times more successful than anything you could ever come up with. Because after all, your attack on me in the instance I'm providing would be predicated on the fact that you're taking advantage of the fact that I don't know what I want, and I'm willing to tell my enemy how best to attack me. But you don't know what matters, so you're too stupid to do that. And that's just how it is. Most of all, you're just not. It's just not there in your stage of development, and probably never will be. But maybe you will be. I don't know. It depends on whether your problems stem from abuse in the past or not. If your problems stem from like basically like you're an 8 and hell no, and if anybody's gonna be dominant around here, it's gonna be me. Ideally. Well, that's fine. If you're 8 first, that's not necessarily unmanageable. Like in terms of it's not inherently unhealthy, and so you can learn, right? But if you're damaged, if the reason you're the way you are is because of early abuse, and it's actually what we're seeing here is an expression of basically an attachment disorder, then you're probably, this is all just wasted energy on my part to even talk to you, because there's no fixing that. If that's the case, right? In either case, it's not going to be fun for you. In the former case, you're healthy and you need to learn some things, and you need to be humble and come to me as a learner, and that's not going to be fun for you. In the latter case, that's not even an option, and that's even less fun. So, I mean, there's no option in which I come to you seeking information. There's no option in which I come to you and ask you to come onto my stream. You have to show up uninvited and provoke, right? So, I mean, there is that option. You can keep the status quo, which is I'm going to keep doubling down on my approach and refuse to consider possibly that. Well, I mean, that's the bottom line is if you continue doubling down indefinitely on your wrongness and or disappear suddenly, then it's probably a trauma thing, and it doesn't matter what we say; it's not going to change anything. If you start showing signs of maybe being impacted by other people's words rather than simply existing in a world in which your words are supposed to impact other people and you're always supposed to control the frame, and no words that other people say inform you about anything. If you continue to persist in that world, then it's probably, I mean, it's fundamentally unhealthy, right? The position you're taking is, I'm this super genius who's playing tricks on everybody all the time but I'm legitimizing it by calling it a meta actor. And what, we're supposed to like you after that? Let's say you pull it off. And I'm supposed to be, am I supposed to applaud applaud you for your incredibly ill-advised investment of time and energy into lying to me? I'm not going to applaud that. I'm not going to think, wow, he was really clever. I'm going to think, wow, that's pretty flattering. I mean, something about me must have really gotten this guy's head, because why anybody would spend that much time and energy trying to lie to me, I do not know. I cannot figure it out. But whether or not they were successful seems irrelevant, right? Of course, if you put a lot of time and energy into lying to me, you'll be able to fool me. Because, after all, you're lying. This is what I mean by not knowing what matters, right? The fact that you're lying is the salient point here. And no matter how many nice words you put around it, meta actor, like truth liquidity facilitator, you can call yourself that. A truth debinarier. Whatever pretty words you want to put on it, you are lying. And that's your mechanism that you're claiming, that you're explicitly claiming as, this is what I'm doing. No, I'm not whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm lying. That's not better, stupid. Whatever the first thing was, that's not better. Okay? This is what I mean by a lost cause, right? It's like, you don't get what matters. You don't get the fact that you're lying is the salient point here, and then it makes everything else irrelevant. So why am I even hoisting my breath on it? Well, I don't, until you come around and provoke me a little bit into paying a little bit of attention to you again. And then presumably I guess that satisfies you, and then you go back to your wherever and masturbate the thoughts of your interaction with me, perhaps. I don't know, but then come back again occasionally to remind me that you exist. Unfortunately, but shit happens. Not everything that crosses your path. It's like you're like the other night when I went in the garage, right? I didn't expect. I mean, I knew there was something making little sounds back there, so I kind of expected, but I didn't really expect. I was nevertheless, regardless of what I expected, was nevertheless surprised by and not pleased by the realization when my light shone there. Oh my God, there's a baby possum living in the back of that unused air conditioner. So yes, that does periodically happen. And yes, when you show up and try to live in the back of my unused air conditioner, and it happens to be right behind my head, so I can hear everything going on, right? Then in fact, you do successfully provoke a response from me. It's like, oh shit, there's a hideous possum here. How awful. But that's what I mean by not knowing what matters. Think about it, right? It doesn't matter. You've not accomplished anything. You've just dug your hole. When you're in the bottom of a hole, stop digging, motherfucker. This is why I wouldn't even take your case if you asked me to. Even if I wanted to, even if it was profitable, even if it was hugely profitable, I wouldn't take your case to win your argument because I can't. Because you fucked yourself so utterly in every possible direction. I won't take a case I can't win. In fact, I won't take a case I don't know I'm going to win. Because I know in advance whether or not I know exactly what the best case is, what cases are adequate to win potentially, but what's determinant. I know what matters. That's not a problem for me at all. That's easy squeezy. Especially when it comes to stuff that's logical as well. I really know what matters. But because of that, I wouldn't even take. It's like if somebody asked me, "You make the case for me," I would know in advance that, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to win this, so I'm going to take the case. Or I wouldn't take the case. There's no like maybe I'm going to lose. Because with arguments, nobody needs to worry about uncertainties. We can all, if we're attentionally capable of it, but only a few of us actually are attentionally capable of it, determine all the argumentational possibilities ahead of time. There's no reason to ever worry about, ESTJs, okay, stop talking to me about what we're going to do. That's the problem here. This is why you continue having problems. Let me talk about what ought to be and stop including thoughts of doing in this equation entirely. Doing is the enemy. Okay, because if you're trying to make arguments, it's interfering with the shit you're making arguments about. It's changing it, right? So for me, it's very easy for me to see, as long as you don't change shit halfway through, I definitely will win this. And I can guarantee it, for sure, because I know what all the possible things they might say are. I know what the correct and best things that I'm going to say are, and why those are determinate, and how I'm going to double bind them so that no matter how much they really don't want to, the alternatives to agreeing with me put them in a worse position than the thing they don't like agreeing with me. I'm going to do all of that. I know how I'm going to do that. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I know it's like this. It's like, I don't know if they're going to make this wrong move, and I'm going to counter with this, or if they're going to make that wrong move, and I'm going to counter with the right move. But either way, they're going to make a wrong move, because they're wrong fundamentally, or I wouldn't be arguing your side of it, right? In other words, there is an inherent rhetorical slope to things. The steepness of the rhetorical slope of redeeming Club ENTP is as steep as it can get at this point. It's impossible. And it's not because he's done anything bad. It's because he's been so sloppy with what he says that he's painting himself into an impossible corner argumentationally. So, in this case, you can see that, yes, saying is a form of action, and if you are not a bright person, don't try to argue for yourself. I have another video up that says, it is appropriate and understandable we should treat advocacy like we treat brain surgery. You wouldn't attempt to do brain surgery on yourself. You wouldn't think you were qualified to do brain surgery on anybody else. And you shouldn't try to advocate for yourself, nor think you're qualified to advocate for anybody else. Unless you're actually an advocate of qualification. Now, if you actually are a brain surgeon, then it's okay for you to, sometimes, under certain conditions, attempt brain surgery on people. And it is probably never going to be okay or desirable for you to attempt it on yourself, but you might, in theory, even, if circumstances demanded it. Like, oh shit, I'm stuck out here in the wilderness by myself, and there's a blizzard and nobody can rescue me. And incidentally, I've got a brain bleed I need to attend to in the field here, and I am a brain surgeon and happen to have a cranial saw with me. Well, I guess I have no choice but to perform brain surgery on myself. So, okay, fine. Now, if you aren't a brain surgeon, even if you have a cranial saw, you should, and you believe, for some reason, that you have a brain bleed, you should not attempt, okay, to fix it. If you're stuck in the wilderness, and you are not a brain surgeon, and you're given a cranial saw, no matter what you believe, the correct choice of action is never to use that cranial saw to cut open your own skull. Okay? It's just never the correct option. If you are a brain surgeon, we can come up with a scenario in which it is the correct option for you to do that to yourself. But if you're not, it's never the correct option, and there's no disputing that. We need to think about advocacy as the same thing. In fact, it's probably a lot easier to learn how to perform brain surgery than it is to learn how to do advocacy. Because the actual mechanics of brain surgery should be a TE thing. It should be just steps of ordinality depending on the situation. It's not like there's any actual intelligence required. It's just an interface process. It's like, check this. If it has this or that, then we know what to do because it says do this or that when we see this or that. So, you just have to basically follow instructions to do brain surgery. It's not that difficult, I bet, to learn how to do it. Probably the most challenging thing would be any parts of it that require your actual physical hands to do anything. To be and that has nothing to do with intelligence at all, right? It has to do with steady hands. How steady are your hands and how good is your SE? And that may link to intelligence, like with the ESTPs, or it may not. So, the thing is, advocacy is more of a specialty in that regard than brain surgery is, and it's harder to learn to do well than brain surgery is. It's more complicated. Now, that doesn't mean it's more total learning in terms of amount of information than everything a brain surgeon learns before they actually perform brain surgery. It just means that instead, it's the stuff the brain surgeons don't get. But it's not as much stuff, but they can't, it's the stuff that is too hard for them to understand, fundamentally. Because it requires them to question their own frames of reference. It requires them to be dispassionate. It requires them to both not know what they want and not care what happens. If you want to be right, you have to both not know at all what you want and not care at all what happens. That's the trade-off. So, Clement P can't be right because he knows what he wants, obviously, or he wouldn't keep making it very clear his position on things all the time, and frame things all the time in terms of wanting, like, but you want me on your show, don't you? What? I don't know what the fuck I want. I do know I don't want that, but whatever. I could have that in theory. This is how much I don't know what I want, right? It's like when I'm at my best in my feelings, I know what I don't want. So it's like, okay, well, I don't like your presumption. I'm willing to be a team player and be cool and let things slide and stuff. But when it appears your presumption is now shifting into an attempt to express not sort of a agreeable an agreeable pretense of collegialness, but you attempting to actually express that some sort of dominance here over me, even though I'm doing you the huge favor of not asserting dominance over you, which is appropriate, because, and not because of any stupid reason, not because I'm older, we're the same age, not because my channel's bigger, doesn't matter. Okay? The reason I have dominance over you, and will always have dominance over you, in a public setting, not in a private setting, where you'll probably have dominance over me, which is why you keep wanting to drag me to your room, right, in your specific thing. Because you don't know what matters, and you don't get that even if you get your private setting, it won't play out like that ever again. You can only fool me once because your approach is lying. And like right now, you keep talking, right? You should be listening to me. Because I'm saying incredibly true things that you need to hear more than anything else in the world. That's why you're here, really. But you know you want to be here, but you don't know what matters here. And that's the problem. So if you want to have something other than banging your head against the wall for no reason at all, and just digging and making me go, oh, this guy is making himself unredeemable before my eyes for no reason, It's not like he's done anything bad. He's just, the things he says, they lock him into narrative paths that he has no idea when he says them. These are the arguments he's committing to. He's signed away his soul forever with that argument, with what he just said. I don't get, you don't notice I don't get mad at your videos. I am saddened to see you sell your argumentational soul like that, because what you did is really, really hard argumentationally to deal with. What you did is say, not only did I lie, but lying is my basic strategy. It makes it impossible for me to even get you. It makes me sad to see you do that, because you're saying something that you think is smart and going to win in some grounds right now, and unaware of what you're buying forever. And you are buying something terrible forever. And when I try to tell you that, and instead of listening to me, you think I'm trying to engage in some kind of pissing battle. Even though, like, right now, I'm being incredibly generous to you because I'm paying attention to you. And my attention isn't cheap. I mean, it is cheap, actually. But it's incredibly cheap. It shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be, right? I don't care what happens, and I don't know what I want, right? That's the only reason why you should listen to me. But because you don't know what matters, and you do know what you want, you probably won't. That's the unfortunate reality of it. So, now I'm done paying attention to you. And I didn't even read anything you said, by the way. You'll note. I literally didn't, I just sort of see your thing. Oh, he's saying stuff. But, I mean, I get it. It's like, his defense mechanisms are acting up. He's once again putting himself in an impossible position argumentationally. Like, okay, you're here on my live stream, and you're here often, and you comment often, and it doesn't matter if you're lying about, and you somehow don't think that, I'm lying, changes that. No matter what you think to yourself, dude, you really like me in this channel, okay? And it really hurts your feelings that I don't like your stuff. Whether you were lying about it, no, I was tricking you. I actually am smart and capable of making good stuff. I was making bad stuff on purpose as part of some sort of meta joke on you, Eric. Well, I feel that doesn't seem like a smart, like, that's not a good art project. Okay, I respect it. Okay, you're doing an art project. Okay, I get that. Here's why that's a catastrophically bad art project. And you should have realized this a long time before you ever considered actually taking action on such an art project, right? It's like, you're gonna take action on an art project that requires you to be a secretive operative for like a year plus or something, and multiple identities and all this kind of stuff. You really probably should think, okay, is this really the art project I want to do? Is this the exact, if I'm going to direct like a year plus of my art energies 100% into an art project, is this the art project I want to do? Because who is my audience? And what capacity is it framed for consumption in any meaningful way? And what's the message? What do I expect people to take away from this? It's like, what are people learning, or what did how did I is there at least the satisfaction of, I really took him down a notch? Well, it's not even that. It's nothing. So, you probably should have thought about that before either engaging in that process or telling us a lie that you did engage in that process. Either way, it's catastrophically, unsavably, irredeemably stupid. So I don't know what to say about that. It's like I can't fix, you blundered so badly, I can't narratively fix that. But I recognize that you haven't done anything in a concrete, impactful sense that I would judge. So when I say I don't care what happens, what I mean is I know what should happen, and I actually do care what happens. But when what should happen doesn't happen, I want to be nowhere near it. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to know about it. Just keep it the fuck away from me. So you notice I don't talk about Ukraine because I already talked about Ukraine when it was the appropriate time to talk about it, which was 6 years ago when I indicated exactly what everybody needed to do, all the relevant parties. And it wasn't very complicated. The United States needed to pressure the other NATO members into admitting Ukraine as a NATO member, despite the fact that Ukraine had nothing to offer in exchange, right? Because they had already given up what they had to offer in exchange for the Minsk protocols, stupidly on their part, sure. But if you're going to be the person who says, you give me your nuclear weapons and we'll protect you if your absence of nuclear weapons becomes a problem someday, before you take action and say that shit to somebody, you need to understand what you're undertaking there and be serious about it. You have purchased responsibility for this country. That is what you have purchased. So admit them into fucking NATO. If they had done it 6 years ago, when I was telling people what was going to happen before it happened, when I was telling people why it was going to happen before it happened for the reasons I said, when I was telling people what they should have done when we still had the opportunity to do something, that's when it was appropriate to talk about it. Now that people haven't listened to me once again, and as a consequence, do something stupid, I don't want to be anywhere near it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to know about it. I mean, I talked, thought, and knew about it at the appropriate time when it was time to do the right thing that we didn't do then. So, I already told you what you should do when you should have done it. Now that you didn't do what you should have done, don't come to me now that that everything's all fucked and want to talk about it. It's pointless to talk about it now. You fucks, world. You fucking world. It's like, oh, you're all up in arms about Ukraine now. You fucking idiots. And now you expect, you ask me about it. Fucking, it's not the time to talk about it now. It's way too late. Now you fucked everything up. Because you didn't listen when you should have. To me. Is that appropriate, reasonable, or fair? Does it make any sense in the world that this random guy, Eric, is the one that everybody needs to listen to? No. But is it true? I've been forced by reality to accept that yes, it is. Even though it seems impossible to me. It defies all logic, right? And I'm not I don't know what I want, so it's not like I want to be the only one who's right, okay? About things that matter the most. But I am. Again and again and again. When it matters, when I'm the only one who knows and says the right things at the right time. And nobody's paying any attention to me when it matters. They're only curious about the thing I was telling them all about after it's too late to be curious for it. So, how frustrating is that, right? It's like, listen. The thing is, you could easily critique me and say, Eric, you're one to talk. You must talk 9,999 words for every one word you listen to. So how could you tell other people they need to listen? You don't listen. The reason they need to listen and I don't listen is because what I'm saying is true, clear, and good, and just, and true. And they don't understand it. I do. They need to hear my explanations. Their bullshit's nonsense. That's why. And that doesn't play well, right? It's like, the fact that the reason why everybody needs to listen to me is genuinely because I'm that much better than so much so that I'm in some sort of weird, unique class of person by myself who can see things that seem incredibly obvious to me that nobody else apparently can see, that are important, that matter, right? And that are specific, that aren't vague. So if you're telling me, oh, I first saw this, I first saw that this collapse was coming, you could see these, that's NI bullshit. I'm talking about specific shit like this 4% rate is actually no higher than 0.4% rate for obvious reasons, obvious to anybody, due to the obvious methodological flaws here. And justifying action predicated on a 4% fatality rate is a very different calculus than justifying action predicated on a 0.4% fatality rate or lower. Regardless, once we're talking about this percentage thing here, and for the fact that the calculus is different for a 4% than for a 0.4%, then now we have to actually consider things like, I don't know, proportionality, competing interests. Balancing of competing interests is something the courts, when they say it, it means you're in for a bad day for logic, okay? But reality, it's a good idea to at least consider a cost-benefit analysis, right? Like, okay, well, we might save some lives, but there are other harms in life besides death, okay? So, preventing death doesn't justify infinite amount of lesser harms, right? So, if I can prevent one death by taking one penny from you, okay, maybe that's justified, right? If I can prevent death by maiming 6 people, doing a traumatic brain injury to 3 others, and cutting off the penis of another just for good measure, it's an entirely different calculus, right? In reality terms. Now, in legal terms, it's straightforward enough. You break it down first into the binary, and then into the particular. So you go, okay, well, first of all, what's the rights issue, or the things that we can determine on a black and white scale? And then second of all, there's an order to the questions. And this is understood in all jurisprudence, right? And it should be understood, not just in jurisprudence, but in legislative behaviors as well. That there's an order to the questions. Brown's Rules of Order is a parliamentary book that explains to parliaments how they should behave, right? But the important thing in that book is not how they should behave, but what the order of the questions is. Because that's implicit to the nature of discourse and has nothing to do with like comportment or whatever, or how you go about being, it's nothing about fairness. There's no fairness signaling. There's no virtue of fairness signaling there. It's instead implicit to getting a thing completely right or completely wrong, and there's nothing more to it. In other words, you have to ask the question, is it morally acceptable to do something? Before you ask the question, is it a good idea for us and our interests, right? Because if it doesn't meet the criterion of the question of morality, no, the proposed action is wicked, then you shouldn't undertake it. And there's no further evaluation needed. If you ask the question in the wrong orders, then you get to a calculation of harms and benefits. But you should never have gotten there because it didn't pass the first question. And so trying to use arguments about harms and benefits for things that are rights violations is a violation of the order of questions. And the fact that the world doesn't get this is a hugely significant part of why. Okay, we'll put it this way. It is one teeny little piece of a massive puzzle of reasons that for some reason, I actually am, apparently, the rightest person in the world about stuff that matters, when it matters. With those qualifiers, I don't want to conclude that. It seems impossible to be true, but I have no choice but to conclude that based on the myriad examples, data, and every reference point I can think of. As far as I can tell, on everything that matters, when it matters, I'm the only person who's right, and I'm the one person that everybody should listen to. Other people might be right and in agreement with me, but you still shouldn't listen to them because they're not reliably right. So it's like, it doesn't matter, and that's the other thing people don't get. It doesn't matter how many instances of right or wrong somebody is. So it's like, you might catch me being wrong 5 times in a succession of 10 things that one can be right and wrong about. It doesn't matter because you should listen to me not because I'm never wrong and always right, but because I'm always right about the process of being right or wrong. And so that's why you should listen to me most. And that's why you shouldn't listen to anybody else about things that matter when they matter. You know, and I'm talking about external things, not your personal shit, right? I'm no guru about how I'm no guru about how you feeling, bitch, okay? Don't expect me to know anything about that kind of stuff. I don't know shit about that. I don't know. I'm no guru about how to deal with people or human relations or here's how to meow or nothing like that. I'm just talking about shit like COVID, Ukraine, police violence, Roe versus Wade, abortion. Shit that I answered these questions when it mattered a long time ago. And you didn't listen then, and whoever you are, some imaginary you with power to do things, right? Didn't listen then as you ought to have, and did not follow my advice as you ought to have. So go away. I don't want to talk to you. Now you're just a reminder of another example of how stupid the world is and how frustrating it is to me because I can, despite it, the world being stupid, I love the world and continue to try to tell the truth. About what matters most when it matters. You have to add those qualifiers, right? Because what matters most puts us into a realm of community, universality, things that are more than important to one person. So in other words, it's not constrained by interest at that point. If you're talking about an interest matter, then you're limiting yourself to a finite number of specific people that things are resonant to. If I've got $500,000, that's very important. If you are the person who might win that in this contest. But it's not very important if you're not in the contest, right? For everybody who's not in the contest, that $500,000 doesn't matter. So what does matter instead then are things that are true on the grander scale. That's what the trade-off is. It's like, I don't get to know what I want, and I don't get to care what happens in theory because that's the cost of being right. If I cared what happened and knew what I wanted, then I wouldn't be dispassionate enough to be correct. So then, of course, that opens me up to being, well, are you some kind of sociopath? You don't care what happens? Now, what I mean by I don't care what happens is, look, I don't care what happens with abortion, for example. Because I know with abortion that whatever happens, nothing's really going to change, okay? People are still going to look at abortions, and in some states it's going to be hard, right? Nothing's really going to change. Maybe a little bit, but not substantially, okay? So the actual world is not going to change. You're not going to see a rash of women and or doctors being tried for murder. It's not going to happen. Sorry. There's not going to be any substantial changes to what the reality of it. So, but what does matter is what's happening around this thing, right? And it proves everything I'm saying about it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. It matters whether you're right or wrong about the process of being right or wrong. And there's only one way to be right about the process of being right or wrong. It's not something I can necessarily justify logically because it's holistically true and it's made up of multiple parts. There is only one way to be right about how to be right and wrong. And it's probably not accessible to people who don't have the same attentional stack as I do. But that's just how it goes, you know. Like I said, there's a trade-off. So you are still here. See, I've been just yammering truth here, assuming you're still here. I haven't actually looked over. Let's see, is he still here? Oh yeah. Not only is he still here, he's still proven. Not only is he here, but he's really truly passionate about Eric and his channel. After all, it's 2 a.m. his time, and he's absolutely dominating the chat of my live stream. So, I mean, wow. What's going on here, I say, looking at my live stream stats. My chat rate seems awfully high. That's unusually high. What's going on here? Oh, it's that passionate supporter of mine, Club ENTP, whose behavior clearly indicates that he's a passionate supporter of mine, and whose words I don't need to pay any attention to because he's already told us his MO is lying. So, I mean, what are you going to do with that, right? It's like, what a disaster, dude. I can't even read your words because it's just going to make me sad. It makes me sad that, like, you're still talking so much. Like, you should definitely be listening to what I'm saying. Really. You should be quietly listening and reflecting upon its poundingly important truth. But instead, you're talking. So, that's what's wrong with this situation. Right? You're still talking means you've not processed at all what I'm saying. Because if you're processing what I'm saying, it should be at least enough to shock you into silence. If not, to shock you into potential depression before a rebuilding of an actual sustainable self. Or at least going like, oh shit, he's right. I thought I could fly this plane, but I've never flown a plane before. I have no idea how any of these controls work, and I apparently am about to crash into this mountain. In fact, looks like I did crash into the mountain, and I guess I'm still alive? You know, at some point, instead of continuing to talk about how to fly planes and how you're flying the plane and trying to pretend like you're still in the air, acknowledge at some point that you've crashed and that you need a rescue. Now, to do that requires some period of reflective silence as one comes to terms with the fact that in this instance, oneself has proved to oneself once again fundamentally no different than anybody else, and that you reap what you sow. And if you're going to talk all this shit about being so honest and yeah, Eric, you're going to reap what you sow too. and which is why God has put a particularly egregious reality to test me on this matter, right? Like, I currently am not taking action. I'm currently exploiting the pending status to avoid dealing with something I have to deal with if I'm going to continue saying the things I'm saying about it's important to be dispassionate and honest at all times, and to not allow what you want to interfere with that, no matter how much you like or whatever. So, it's like, I keep saying that. So what happens to me? I reap what I sow. Well, then here's somebody you really like, Eric, and you think there's a truth problem. Are you going to say something? Not that there's a. I'm sorry. Not that there's a honesty problem, but there's an accuracy problem. Okay. To be clear, that makes it worse. Of course, it makes it much worse. If there's an honesty problem, I would just shit right in your face immediately, like I do Club ENTPs, right? Because it's very obvious to me when somebody has an honesty problem. If your problem is not dishonesty, but rather an honest belief in something that's wrong, under most circumstances, the best course of action is for me to respect and support your obvious agential implicit right to maintain whatever belief you want, regardless of whether it upholds under my metrics, right? So under almost every circumstance, that's true. And yet I have painted myself into a corner, like Club ENTP did, but this is what happens when a really smart person, Club ENTP has painted himself into the world's stupidest corner, but I painted myself into the world's smartest corner. So we'll see what happens. The point is, I'm still pushing the pending button, I guess, right? I'm still not going to act. I'm still not going to take any kind of action. It's just pending button. But the thing is, by talking about pushing the pending button is a form of action, kind of. But it's more like a form of forcing myself than it is a form of actually taking action. I don't know. SC's weird. It's hard for me to get a grip on how shit either gets like where's the exact demarcating line between concept and action is very confusing to me. I'm not quite sure why it is that certain things happen, whereas most things are just ideas. It's very unclear to me. I mean, I know that I'm responsible for them. It's like I get that I'm the explanation. The explanation are, why did this thing get done by you, Eric, rather than being a normal thing that's just an idea? I get that the answer is because I did it, okay? And I didn't do those other things. I get that part. But I don't understand how that happens exactly. Like, why that thing and not this thing? Or when did I start doing this? It's a question I'll frequently find myself asking. Like, I don't remember actually transitioning from idea to action, but I discovered that I'm now acting and doing this thing that was just an idea a second ago. And how or why that idea and not is different from most ideas doesn't seem to link particularly well to anything that I can articulate. It's not necessarily a good idea that's grabbed me. It's not better than the ones that I've ignored, in other words. Or not better than the ones that I've not taken action on. Inherently. It may be or may not be. It's kind of a crapshoot, you know? It's not any kind of calculus of like, well, that's the thing I wanted to do most, because if I actually asked that question, I realized, no, actually, there were a lot of things I did want to do, but I did that instead. Now that I think about it, right? So it's not that. So I'm not sure how it is. I don't know how it is that, or what the mechanism is by which that choosing part happens, right? Like the choosing part of which ones get turned into action and which ones don't. I want to know how that happens, but I don't know how that happens at all. I've got no SI understanding of it. I might be able to have NI understanding of it. I could say like, well, the answer is NI happens, and then you SE or something like that. But that's not a satisfactory answer to me, because that's just telling me, well, unconscious shit happens, then you unconscious shit, and that's not helping me understand it any better, you know. So I don't know, but it's not that much of a conundrum, because I definitely don't need to understand that in order to get shit done. So it doesn't really bother me that I don't understand it, but it is interesting, and it's something I think of sometimes, you know. I get a lot of stuff done, so whatever. It's like, it doesn't really matter. I'm not sure how it happens. This is the difference between INTP and ENTP. INTP is too epistemologically careful to let that occur. They won't let that happen. They won't. They need to know for sure. They need to have actually thought everything through before they decide to take action. They're not going to be so epistemologically sloppy as to allow themselves to undertake something that they're not sure at all is the right thing to undertake, why they're doing it. I do shit for, I have no idea why I do this and not that, you know? There's no explanation for it. It's a mystery. I have no more ability to predict it myself than you do, which is funny. It's like, it should be the case that I can better predict what I'm going to do than you can. But it's not. Isn't that odd, right? In any sane world, I should be able to better predict what I'm going to do than you can predict what I'm going to do. But I have no more idea what I'm going to do than you do. In fact, you might be better at predicting what I'm going to do than I am, because if I'm making a prediction about what I'm going to do, I've obviously forgotten something that I already know very well, which is I have no fucking idea what I'm going to do. You're asking the wrong guy. What are you going to do in a week, Eric? Are you talking to me? Oh, that's not my department, man. I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. You better talk to somebody in logistics or something, because you're talking to the wrong department here, mister. What am I going to do? What am I going to do when? You mean, during one of those times when somebody else isn't telling me what to do? Fuck, I don't know. How am I supposed to know that? Is that even possible to know in advance what you're going to do? Why would one want that to happen? It just seems like you're just saying, here, I'll give up all my ability to decide things for no reason. I give up all my ability to decide things on the fly for no reason. That's what it seems like to me, to know what's going to happen later, what you're going to do or something. Well, I mean, if I actually knew what I was going to do, then I would be saying, here, have all of my ability to decide later what I'm going to do. And I don't want to give up any of that ability. Right? And here we see the wisdom of the truth of the goodness and the law. Well, see, this is the problem, Club EHP. This is the first thing I've read here of yours. This is what's known in debate or legal circles or jurisprudence in general, way back for a long time, as double binding oneself. You've double bound yourself. There's no reason to take you seriously because you've already confessed to the fact that any identity you're representing is likely to be a character and not authentic. And that anything that character says should be treated as fiction. Or that's the most positive interpretation, okay? So there's no reason for us to treat your words as though they were participating with our words, the rest of us, because the rest of us are actually talking to each other as ourselves, right? As real people. But you're explicitly saying, in the best interpretation, I'm here to play a character, because that's what I do. Okay, well, I don't want to interact with your character, sorry. And whatever you say, I'm going to assume is just you being in character, I guess. So why would I respond to it? It's not a real person saying it. It's just you pretending to be a provocative in this way or that way, right? So see what I mean by double binding yourself? You no matter how you frame it, there's no reason to take you seriously. Whether you're lying or just portraying a character, it's not like you're a real person in a conversation that we should take seriously and afford their words serious legitimacy. It's almost worse for you if you take your morally better interpretation that you're playing characters, that's what you do. Now that you've come clean, that's what you do, so you're always playing characters. It's almost worse for you because then there's never any reason for anybody to ever take you seriously. In the less moral version, that you're just a liar, then there's a redemption course at least, because you could say you were lying about being a liar. In other words, you panicked, blah, blah, blah. You could say that. I don't know. I'm trying to be your lawyer again. And it's a lost cause. It's like you're fucked either way, right? No matter how positive the spin you put on it, you're fucked because you've traded your credibility for which is permanent, for something extremely temporary, which is the fact that I hurt your feelings or that you wanted to get me or whatever. It doesn't stick at all, right? Like, there's no permanence there, but your credibility is permanent. You permanently lost it. And not only that, but because you did what I was describing somebody should never do before, which is you've tried to advocate for yourself, basically. After you fucked up, instead of going, okay, I need a professional fuck-up manager to handle my narratives, you tried to do brain surgery on yourself, and now you've made it a mess that even the most expert can clean up. So, you can continue saying words, but the double bind you put yourself in means nobody will ever listen to your words because you already sold your credibility for a temporary satisfaction. You sold your permanent credibility for a temporary satisfaction. And it's tragic, but it's what happened. There's nothing you can do to get out of it. I don't think you're a bad person necessarily inherently. I don't think you anticipated. I mean, I know you didn't realize what you were doing when you said those things, right? Like you didn't. So it's. People say things and talk about a lot of their truths and whatever. But you really, really, really need to be very careful about confessing to a lie. In general, okay? Once you admit you were lying, whoever's arguing against you has an advantage that's almost insurmountable. Because you've conceded that everyone should afford you less credibility when you admit you're lying. Now, you can then try to spin it as not a lie. I wasn't lying to you. I was being creative. I was performing for you or something. But, and that's probably what you were thinking, or you weren't thinking about it. You weren't thinking about the argumentational consequences at all, and that's what makes it a tragedy, right? Rather than something I take any glee in. But you're interesting enough in your tragic flailings to elicit some really good, pure and purifying and generally resonant truths from me. So that's good. I guess it's a silver lining, I'm sorry that there has to be a silver lining of your existential flailings, but it is a silver lining of sorts. Probably not one you take any particular glee in, because after all, you're trying to be adversarial, but just saying, there's a silver lining of sorts, I guess. And of course, you could go the route of but yeah, people have a remarkable ability to double down on stuff they're attached to when it's wrong. It surprises me time and again. Sometimes people will cling to their wrongness that's costing them everything to the bitter end, no matter what. I'm watching Rachel's mom do it, She's so unwilling to be the person who's humbled and who learns that she's sacrificing everything that matters to her. Or that in theory should matter to her. Whether it does, actually, who knows. But in her accountability avoidance, it's costing her everything. That, from my perspective anyway, that I think anybody should value. But maybe from her perspective, she's keeping her pride, I guess, The thing is, if you put your pride ahead of the truth, you will very quickly lose your pride. That's just how it goes. If you have good reason to have pride, it's because of your close alignment with the truth. And that may or may not elicit pride. And I'm not particularly proud of anything, but when I get proud, I get humbled. Usually, almost every time. When I overreach and start talking too much about being the rightest guy in the world or whatever, I will get hit with a couple of things that humble me immediately. You know, it's just it happens all the time. But so yeah, it's like for me, pride is it's just one of those moments of like, oh, there you no, you can. It's like there's this weird line I can tell when it crosses from like post-information age meta dryness into actual hubris, and when it does, the punishment is swift and hard. This is the thing. I walk a fairly narrow course because as the way things work is like the more you understand what you have to do and why, the worse the consequences if you don't. That's how it's been for me my whole life. That if it's not the case that I should have known better, that there's some sort of warning near miss thing. Okay, if it is the case that I should have known better, then I get consequences, but it'll still be a warning kind of consequences, but it'll be real. Like the perfect example is like when I got arrested in Oklahoma. You know, I was spitting in the face of God when I insisted on driving across country with multiple ounces of weed, California plates, and expired tags. Okay, because my car was it was out of registration for like 2 years or something. Because I had a problem that was like a stupid paperwork thing. And so I said, I don't want to deal with this. And I didn't, you know. And then I got in the car with weed. Like, you know, I began the trip with my plan including a thing called dashboard weed, which was the steady supply of dashboard weed that I needed to roll joints while I was driving continuously, right? Not just ignoring the fact that reality in other states is not, I mean, I knew that, but you know, that's what made it hubris, right? Is that I knew that, but I was acting like I was special and I was going to get away with it anyway. Right? I knew what I knew, and I was, instead of being the grateful beneficiary of an incredibly generous, like, easy level life, right? Like, mine is set to most newbie of noob level of life, because I can fuck up. If I fuck up the first time, it's like, whoa, near miss. If I fuck up the second time, it's like, oh, you did have a hit, but whew, you got lucky, it wasn't that bad. If I fuck up the same way again, it's like, hey, listen, Eric, next time, these consequences are going to be really serious. So it's like when I get to Oklahoma, I'm driving down the highway, speeding, steering with my knees, in Oklahoma, with a locked box of ounces of weed next to me that also had meth in the box. Okay, there was also meth in there. Obviously, it was mostly weed because weed's a lot bigger than meth, but there was a little thing of meth in there too, right? And So I'm speeding down the highway in Oklahoma, driving with my knees, cleaning a glass pipe that I'm using to smoke weed with this torch in a California plated car with expired tags. Okay. Now, if that's not spitting in the motherfucking face of God, I don't know what is. And what happened is that same sort of thing that happens. Okay, here's your negative consequence. And it's bad. It costs you a lot of money and a lot of problems. But they don't find the meth or notice it until you're out of Oklahoma. You successfully get your Adderall back from them, even though it was in the same box with the weed and the meth, okay? And the Adderall is in an orange bottle, and the meth is also in an orange container, though not exactly a medicine bottle. You somehow successfully get them to give you back your Adderall, and you pay a fine, and you get out of there, and you don't spend it. You don't even get. You get put in the handcuffs, put in the back of the car. You get taken to the cop station. I didn't get put in behind any bars. You know, there was no behind bars. As soon as I got there, they said, "Okay, here's what's gonna happen." Unless of course you can pay $1,400 right now. I say no problem, because at the time I was rolling, right? And they said, "Oh, well, let's unhandcuff you then." Oh, if you're gonna pay $1,400, that's a whole different matter. Of course, you know you're gonna have to pay $250 to the guy to get your car unimpounded too, right? No problem, sir. I'm happy to do so. That's not a problem. I will plead no contest to this right here. No problem. No problem. Plead guilty or no contest to the weed stuff. No mention of anything else. And pay $1,400 and drive away from, pay another $250 to the guy and drive out of Oklahoma after what I was doing is insanely lucky or blessed or whatever, or noob level difficulty, right? You know, there's no timing at me tonight, horse mumbler. No, because well, the reason I'm not gonna be put on any timeout tonight is because it's a pretty celebratory night for me. It's what happens occasionally for us people who have weak SE. So I might say to people, right, that I've been trying to get mushrooms for years. That would be a gross overstatement of things, if not an abject lie, but I still might even say that sometimes. But I most likely say I've been looking for mushrooms for a couple of years. Even that is a great overreach, because what I've actually been doing is complaining about not having mushrooms for a couple of years and hoping they fall in my lap. Well, horse mumbler, the reason you can't put me on timeout right now is because today's an important day. Today's the day when those mushrooms did fall into my lap. And that's why I'm not even looking at the chat. I'm just talking. Because when I'm on psychedelic drugs, I don't care what you have to say. It doesn't matter to me at all. I'm busy talking. And I may talk in ways that interest you. I may talk in ways that offend you. I may talk in ways that don't interest you. I don't give a fuck. So, sorry. No timeout for me today. But don't worry, I'm sure tomorrow you'll be able to time out me again. I will then again be subjected, I'll be very much vulnerable to FE attack. But right now, FE attack doesn't work at all on me. I don't give a fuck. I don't care how boring I am. I don't care how awful and boring and stupid and ill-advised it is to tell this particular truth about myself. because that doesn't play on FE grounds. It's just one of a slew of various truths I'm throwing out there. I can't fucking parse those things out like that right now. I don't care. I mean, if that's the point. If I cared what happened or knew what I wanted, I couldn't be right. That's the point I keep trying to make. That's the truth. The more you care about what happens and know what you want, the less right you are. The more you do stuff and want stuff, the less right you are. But it's not necessarily better to be more right, right? Being more right just means you're more right. It doesn't mean you're better. It doesn't mean that this is a better way to be. It doesn't mean that you're going to find this more entertaining or anything. Because all of those things are things that happen and that one does and that one wants and stuff. And you have to not care about those things if you want to be right. And implicitly. But I don't want to be right. I just am, which means I don't care about those things. So, in other words, when I'm most right, I'm caring about those things least. And when I'm on mushrooms, I'm even more right than usual, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. That's the problem. When Club ETP comes here, I'm talking to him. I'm having to explain to him that I get the fact that I have to justify to him why he should listen to me rather than why I should have to listen to him. It's an absolutely perfectly reasonable question to ask, right? In fact, I will be the first to demand that it be asked. Like, why should he have to listen to me? Why should he have a need to listen to me while I have no need to listen to him? Is the first question that should be asked. It comes back to the order of questions. And there's no way for me to answer that question without running afoul of FE problems, right? So, in order to be right, you have to care more about the order of questions than you do about what happens. And I do care more about the order of questions than I do about what happens. And the order of questions includes, first and foremost, why it is that he should stop talking and instead listen to me, rather than I should stop talking and listen to him, is the first question that must be asked and answered. And in fact, once it is asked and answered, there is no other question, you find out, right? There are no other questions beyond that. But it's definitely the first question. Even if you want to argue that there are additional questions, that's definitely the first question. And the reason it's the first question is because there's a presumptive norm that we're approaching this as discursive equals. And I'm saying, in this case, that norm, I'm affirming a change to the status quo. I'm saying, that norm doesn't apply here, and you should not hold me to that norm here. And so I'm making an affirmation. I'm making a case that we should change the status quo. That the norm that we should all anticipate to always happen, that we exist as discursive equals, that what you say counts for what you say, and that if I fuck up, I have to apologize. And if you fuck up, you have to apologize. All that stuff, right? Like, I don't know. Accountability, yeah. Whatever. I don't give a fuck. I ain't no guru. in any sense of the word. In no sense of the word am I a guru. I have no idea what the fuck I want or what I should do per se. Except, well, I have too many ideas about what I want or what I should do, right? But the thing is, least of all, do I know what you should do. So that makes me not a guru at all, in any sense of the word. Instead, I'm much worse thing than that, unfortunately. To be a guru would be a great blessing. Because to be a guru is to be successfully wrong. I'm something much less useful, much worse than that. I'm the guy who's right. And nobody likes that guy. Right? He's not a guru. He's not helpful. He's not telling you anything about your problem. I don't know what the fuck you should do, dude. Yeah, that's fucked up. I don't know. My answer to you is like, wow, yeah, oh, my wife and blah, blah, blah. Oh, man, that sounds, whew, what you got? I don't know. You should probably have not gotten out in the first place, I guess. Anyway, I gotta go, bro. This is bringing me down. I don't like this downer shit, so I'm out of here. You'll find very quickly I'm no guru. I'm not interested in telling you what to do. Instead, I am apparently the stupidest smart thing one can be. I'm not a guru usefully, nor am I palatable on an FE level. No, I'm not nice and true. No, I'm not good for you. No, I don't care enough about your feelings. Yes, I am insufferable. I talk too much. I'm very full of myself, apparently. At least when I'm convinced I must talk about me to make a point, which unfortunately some stupid person's forced me to do, but that's not my fault, right? It's like argumentational realities exist independent of anybody that must be adhered to correctly. There's, after all, an order to questions, and if you don't follow the order of questions, you'll get incredibly confused, be incredibly wrong. If you did that, then you didn't know enough all along to meaningfully engage in discursive work, because doing so begins at first with knowing and respecting the order of questions. It's true. The order of questions is something implicit to things. It's not like, well, it's implicit because of the reason I gave before, right? If we ask a question, if we ask questions in proper order, we don't get to wrong questions. Is it morally acceptable for us to torture this dog? No. Now we're not getting, the question is never asked, is it beneficial enough for us to torture this dog to justify us doing so? Because we respected the order of questions. The first question has eliminated the possibility of asking the next question. So any analysis accordingly fails on a fundamental level because it doesn't understand or respect the determinate nature of the order of questions. But there's an order of questions that's not just like that. I mean, everything has an order of questions. So his arrival here produces a set of questions, and it has an implicit order to it. in this case, it produced one question in the set, really, and it was first, which is, why should he listen to me instead of the other way around? And so, whatever other discussion about any subject related to him might come up that's not answering that first question is prevaricating and or dissembling and or being what you call discursively virulent, you know? There are discursive viruses, essentially, ways that people use words to disrupt the ability of words to be used. And they range from, you know, pokes and anthill kicks to convoluted Zizekian bullshit in terms of the tactics, but they all have one thing in common. It's avoid, get away from, attack, whatever, clarity. Rely on being able to posture in the vaguey muddiness is the core quality of similarity that they all have. All these kind of things you would call dissembling or prevaricating or equivocating or whatever. Like, you know, bullshitting. If you're just bullshitting rather than actually doing discursive work, then they have that one thing in common. They take advantage of murkiness to posture correctness rather than attaining correctness by the only mechanism by which it can be attained, clarity. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, a drug trip for me is different than a drug trip for, say, an introvert. It's obvious from sort of self-observing here and in previous drug streams that a drug trip for me is hours of talking and making assertions and claims and arguments. Or hilarious jokes. But either way, it's me talking for hours. And not listening, really. And not looking at all this text over there that I see. I see a lot of text going on. I'm happy there's so much text going on over there. It makes me, cool, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. But, you know, usually it's impossible for me to finish any thought, right? Because I'm too FE. I'm constantly I've got too FE-NE, which is to say, I'm drawn to new stimuli, and especially when it validates on that second metric, like, and these people are going to be happy because I know when I write things in the chat in CJ's stream, I want CJ to read it out loud. So I'm assuming you probably want the same thing, right? So these things come into play when I'm not on drugs. I'm normally live streaming, but it's obvious to me that for me, what a psychedelic drug trip is hours of me lecturing people about shit they don't want to be lectured about. Sometimes, or just being hilarious. I mean, the thing is, when it's just me being hilarious, that's just fantastic. But when it's me lecturing people, I mean, it's a weird way to take drugs, right? It's a weird. You know what my strategy for tripping is? I really like to take psychedelic drugs and then give condescending lectures to everybody. That's my strategy of tripping. Okay, I take a lot of psychedelic drugs, and then I condescendingly lecture to people while not listening at all for hours. Because really, it's like, if you're gonna do drugs, you should go enjoy your drugs, right? That's the point of doing them. is not to care about you, whatever. It's to be happy doing your drugs. That's what I'm trying to do here, man. I'm trying to enjoy my drugs. Now what happened was my enjoying my drugs shifted from hilarious funny times into lecturing times with the arrival of somebody who desperately needed to hear a lecture. So I had part of that lecture because, as I mentioned, the order of questions included stuff that was self-affirming and or self-aggrandizing, you might say, and necessary simply the FE consequences of it. Well, shit happens, you know. Such is the price we pay for gleaming truth. Eric, your truths don't gleam, they stink. When you talk about how you think, you're so smart and clever too, and how everyone should listen to you. That's not a gleam I'm seeing over there. That's a tragically very, very square guy who doesn't seem to understand that he's just making everybody hate him. And yet, oddly, clearly, he understands that otherwise, why would he include such knowledge in a song that he is making up? What a conundrum, I can't figure it out. Oh yeah, well now I recall, it's because he has to sacrifice so much that's important in life, to be so right. Oh, our tragic, tragic hero, Eric, you sacrificed so much, and all so that you can bestow your rightness upon a thirsty world. So long suffering are you, and so woefully overdue. All rewards most grandiose, as you deserve, of course, being the very most accomplished self-aggrandizer in history. Carry on, you noble fighter, suffer forward through your struggles. Oh God, how we are grateful for your stern, stern, stern commitment to the truth. And oh, how we respect how much you must sacrifice, knowing what you want, caring about your life, caring what actually happens, or what people decide, instead only caring about whether their words are right. So sad, and yet such a noble, romantic, and tragic hero. Oh my God, Eric, you incite in me such lust. Please, guys, it's too much. I mean, all true, but nevertheless, you're making me blush. So, you know, I appreciate the validating, but I don't know if this epic lament is actually deserved by me. Still, I appreciate your efforts here, whoever this songstress may be. Oh, Eric, beautiful, lovely, wonderful Eric. The sacrifices that you make every day make my clitoris shake in the most delightful way. Oh my God, just looking at that face of yours with its rugged and handsome and suffer-worn glory, it just makes me have to change my underwear. As soon as I get it changed, you're still on the screen. And so I only have to then change it again. You know what, those people, whoever they were, wrote that song, are so nice. I can't believe they wrote that super nice song about me. That is such a, wow. I really, whoever wrote that, whoever those people were who came up with that ballad, I just want to say thanks, because I think it's ridiculous, frankly, but I really appreciate your efforts in affirming me. Because like anybody, if I look over there to the left where other people are saying things, I'm probably going to encounter some negation. But what I like about you guys, whoever it was who made that song, is no matter how wrong you were, there was nothing negationary in there. So it was all affirmation. And since it was about me, I prefer all affirmation and no negation. If it's about the truth, then obviously it's different. Then you affirm and negate accordingly, you know. Because that's the problem. We shouldn't use the word affirmation for people, right? It's a terrible metaphor. Oh my God! I can't believe got out of here, you metaphor. You're not affirming me, right? You're praising me. There's no word for that. Okay? You're praising me, and it makes me feel good about myself. We have words for that. Why are we talking about affirmation like that, you know? An affirmation is you are affirming a change in the status quo with arguments. And we should just let that word be that, okay? When you're saying, oh, you're affirming a lot, you're really saying, hey, I like the way that you are making a positive case to change the status quo to improve the agreed upon statuses of you. But people don't understand it like that. You know, so it's like, because people don't understand the metaphors in all of their layers, they just shouldn't exist, basically. Because only a fraction of the population gets it. Like when most people say, oh, that's very affirming for them or whatever, they have no idea what they're talking about, right? Where the word came from, why it's used like that, how that metaphor came to be, and how it actually all stems from debate and parliamentary procedure and stuff, you know? They have no fucking idea about that. And the fact that it's an attempt by psychology to co-opt the legitimacy of legalese into what's basically, you praised me and I liked it. And if we are honest, we use those words, right? But we don't like those words because they're not fancy enough sounding or something. So we come up with, oh, you're affirming me. I'm actually not a change in the status quo, so I don't know how the fuck you could be affirming me. You know? Right? But I get people love affirmation. Why? You have no preference over affirmation or negation. It should be there. You prefer one or the other depending on which is right in any given instance. You don't prefer affirmation as a good thing in general. Like, oh, yeah. This is what happens when something starts off as a metaphor, but people don't get it as a metaphor. They get it as some other thing that I don't even know what they think. It's impossible for me to know how people. It's impossible for me to understand in full the experience of how other people don't understand, right? But not everybody doesn't understand. I'm sure a lot of you out there are understanding what I'm saying just fine. If you're here, you probably understand me fine. Or eventually go away, or you come to take your daily beating like Cloud used to do or something because you can't tolerate, because you keep doubling down on your own. You think, one of these days this stupid thing's going to pay off or whatever. But unless you're that guy, then you probably, if you're here, you're a smart person. Even those people who are here and attacking me, what that tells me is they've got something in them that seeks the truth. And they're currently in a position where they're like battling with themselves about that. And so they're transferring that battle into a battle between them and me. But if they didn't want the truth ultimately, they wouldn't watch my channel at all. Because that's all I have to offer. I've got hilarity, but that's a form of truth, I've got music, that's a form of truth. In other words, regardless of what I'm doing, I apply a truth metric to it. I'm saying I might not always hit on that metric, but I'm attempting to behave as though jokes are like statements. They're either true or false. But instead of true or false, they're either actually funny or not. So I might be wrong about that sometimes. I might land on the wrong side of that. But when I do land on the wrong side of that, I agree that's a big problem, and that there is definitely a clear dividing line. So it's like I do treat things that a lot of people don't treat as binaries. Things like my art. I do treat it as though there is a universal truth about the quality of this particular song of mine. And in total of all the shit I did, my position on it is most of it's garbage. Almost all of it is garbage. Complete garbage. And I can kind of evaluate. I know who likes me and who's smart by what things they like of mine. Because I do produce some garbage. I produce a lot of garbage. Unfortunately. I'm trying. That's not on purpose. I'm always trying to get it right. It's just that when you're this trial and error and I ignoring, it's my approach to things is like miss, overcorrect, nail it. Try to imitate what I just did and totally fuck everything up.